Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto lives with yoruichi and bleach. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Naomao and link in the description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. Prologue. What a shitty day. What a shitty day were the thoughts of yoruichi as she reminisced on all the things that had happened on this fateful day. First she had learned that some of closest friends and notable members of the Gate 13, Shinji Hirako, RMJKRM Torabashi, Mashiro Kuna, Love Akawa, Hiyori Saragaki, Lisa Yadmaru, Hachijin Ushimda and Kensei Muguruma had been the victims of experiments involving holification. Then she had learned those experiments had been conducted by Aizen Sasuke, lieutenant of Squad 5. Then shit really hit the fan. Turns out Aizen Zanpakuto actually was an illusion type instead of a water type, and that close to everybody in the Sarate could be affected by his illusions. Such people that were affected by said illusions were the Central 46 and the other Taichos that had been led to believe that her best friend Urahara Kisuke had been responsible for the holification of her friends. Apparently they didn't take too kindly to that as now him, the victims of the holification and Tessai, who had used forbidden Kido to save the dying Vizards, were set to be executed. So now yoruichi had to find a way to save everybody. Sigh, why do I feel like I'm always the one dealing with bullshit like this, she muttered as she went through her plan to leave Soul Society with everybody in one piece again. It was simple really. Bust into where the Central 46 were judging Kisuke, take him, rejoin with everybody. Seemed simple enough for now, but this was when the tricky part came in. She had to first explain to Kisuke where they were going and get them there. Normally that wouldn't be too complicated, most would assume she was thinking of the world of the living, but she had a different idea in mind, one that, if it worked, would be much better than simply going to the normal world. See, during the last couple years, she had been going on secret missions, only known to the Sateicho, Yamamoto and Kisuke, seeing as he was the one to get her to the alternate dimension that was her mission area. She had been going to what was known in the Sarate as Area 51. Yeah, who would have thought that the Gate 13 had a sense of humor and knowledge of what Area 51 was whatever. The point is that Area 51 was named as such because it hosted some pretty interesting differences to the normal living world. First of all, they weren't nearly as advanced as the normal world, where that world was starting to discover things such as cell phones and the internet. Area 51 was barely started on things such as TV, okay, not that dramatic a difference, but that was the least surprising one of them. Turns out these humans, entirely living beings, what were considered little hopeless runts by the Shinigami and Hollows, had the ability to use an energy called chakra, the mix of a person's physical energy and spiritual energy. Yes, spiritual energy, as in Riryoku, the thing Shinigami use. They can use it when they mix it with their physical energy. Doing so gave them powers that could rival seated officers and sometimes captains, although the effects of mixing those two made it so that they couldn't see things such as pluses, Shinigami, or Hollows. It was still impressive. Some people even managed to use those two energies separately. They still couldn't use Riryoku nearly as well as Shinigami, as they wouldn't use its full potential, using said energy to create more of their jutsus. But once again, impressive. All this led to some other, weird, developments to say the least. Superpowered 3 Tomodais that, to unlock their full potential, required you to experience pain as severe as killing your best friend, and then made you go insane, or pearl-ringed eyes that gave you a god complex. Apartment-sized demons known as Bijuas that were sealed inside newborn infants that led to them being hated by their village, even though by housing the Bijuas, they were saving said villagers from painful deaths, and all kinds of more bullshit. Sounds nice, right? Okay, when you say it like that the shinobi world really sounds like shit, yoruichi realized. Now, you might wonder why she wanted to go there after this world being described like that. Well, that was simply because, to start with, Hollows couldn't enter said world, and souls somehow seemed to be able to pass on to Soul Society without the need to be consoed, and as such shinigami weren't needed, so they wouldn't have to worry about Soul Society coming to bring them back. And also because yoruichi might have liked the stealthy aspect of the shinobi and their abilities, more than those boring old humans. PFFT, using things as cowardly as guns to fight their wars, the old farts causing them, aren't even the ones losing their lives in them, she thought disdainfully. She also happened to have made a couple good friends over there, Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. She had met them during a mission to a village called Konohagakure no Sato, during what was known as the Third Great Shinobi War. Minato, along with a man from Kumo called A, were the only people that could keep up with her at full speed, but A wasn't nearly as friendly as his rival Minato, and so she had made friends with him. She also had found a good female friend, in the form of his girlfriend Kushina. When I last went there a couple months ago they were expecting a child, wonder how that's been going along for them, she thought, what was probably her only cheerful thought of the day. I guess I'll be able to talk to them, their kid'll probably be so cute. Time skip to after she picks up Kisuke. So how is this going down, yoruichi? Questioned Kisuke as the two made their way down to his lab where Tessai and the Vizards were. And not sure what the condition of the Vizards was during that time, so I'll say they were conscious during their escape. You do remember my secret missions during which I went to Area 51, right? Replied Yoruichi as Kisuke nodded. Yes, but what would that have to do with? He stopped while speaking as his eyes widened, after which a serious expression grew on his face. You can't mean. Yoruichi smirked, but of course my dear Kisuke, I hope you still can open the portal to there, otherwise we'll really be fucked. Yes I do hope Tessai will be able to help me with it though, it is hard to open on my own. Said Kisuke as he thought about what she had just proposed. Of course, where else would we go? I am the only one that can open a portal to there, hollows don't appear in that area, souls have no need for Konso, so we won't be bugged by the Gate 13. Odd, Yoruichi really saved my ass on this one, he thought as he sent a grateful smile towards her best friend. You know, sometimes I forget you actually have a brain, Yoruichi, but that's actually a really good plan. As he said that, Yoruichi hit him in the back of the head with a tick mark on her forehead. Oh, the hell was that for? I complimented you for God's sake. Cried Kisuke as he rubbed the back of his head. Oh yeah, and what was that about me not having a brain, pervert? Replied Yoruichi angrily as she stepped over him towards the group of Tessai and the Vizards, who were watching the interaction with a sweat drop forming in the back of their heads. Count on them to be doing this shit right now, thought most of them as Yoruichi walked towards them with Kisuke behind her, muttering something about insanely hot aggressive catwomen, which earned him a glare from said catwomen, making him shut up for fear of his own health. So guys, how are you all holding up? Are your hollows acting up? Asked Yoruichi. No, I think they're resting after we fought for control, but I fear they'll start acting up soon. Replied Shinji, who had been indirectly named leader of their small group. Well, all aside from Snaggletooth down here who hasn't shut up about this injustice that since she woke up. I know damn well you're not talking about me, Boldy screamed Hiyori as she jumped towards Shinji and slapped him with her sandal, a surprisingly effective weapon, let it be said as Shinji was thrown towards a wall, leaving a crack in it as he got up. What the hell was that for, you damn midget? Said Boldy screamed as he rubbed the back of his head. The eternal fight between the two would have probably continued had Hiyori not been stopped by Kensei. Yoruichi gave a forced cough to get the attention of the group back. If you two lovebirds, a glare from Yoruichi shut them up before it even started, are done, I think you would like to know where we are going, since I didn't ask you guys to meet up at the SCNKAIMO World Penetration Gate. Yoruichi asked rhetorically before continuing, well, simply put, we're going to Area 51, otherwise known as the Shinobi World. Exclaimed Yoruichi, receiving several shocked looks from the group. Aside from Kisuke, Yoruichi explained her reasoning. Well, when put like that it makes sense. Said Shinji, pretty much voicing the Vizard's thoughts. Excellent thinking as always, Yoruichi-sama. Praised Tessai, receiving a half-hearted from Yoruichi for the use of the suffix. Although I must ask, Yoruichi, even though we all know the basics of the world, I am sure we all are intrigued by its history and things of the such, and since you have been there multiple times during its conception, I am sure you might be a good source of information. Asked Kisuke, asking the question everyone was thinking about as Yoruichi nodded. You might want to make yourself comfortable, this is a long story. Explained Yoruichi before she went on to tell all of the major events that had happened since Kagaya ate the fruit that made her the first holder of chakra. Hagoromo's story, the Juubi, who she said could probably take down the Gate 13 if let loose in it, earning several wide eyes, and its separation into the 9 Bijus, the 9th-tailed and most powerful one, apparently having the strength to rival the Satecho, earning more wide eyes. The creation of the elemental nations, and the creation of the Senju and Uchiha clans and where they came from, Hashirama and Madara's story. I was there watching the battle, and I must say that it is still the most incredible battle I have ever witnessed, she explained, and seeing the interested look on everybody's faces continued, they could both probably rival the Satecho. She boldly claimed, earning several shocked looks from the group. They were and are still considered the 2 most powerful ninjas to ever exist, so you would expect them to be powerful. Her expression turned serious afterwards, although contrary to what everybody there thinks, Madara didn't die in that fight. His soul never left his body, so he didn't die, and I fear he is planning something bad. He was too power hungry to simply have gone to some small village. He's probably planning something bad. I wasn't able to follow him, as I had to return to Soul Society afterwards. The other's expression had turned serious while she said that as well. Anybody that could rival the Satecho was dangerous, but a man such as Madara would definitely prove to cause a lot of problems in the shinobi's future. She then went on to explain the creation of Konoha and the other great hidden villages, and her friendship with Minato and Kushina. Phew, that was long, you got it all? Questioned a winded Yoruichi. Explaining the whole shinobi history was no easy task. After they had digested the information, Kisuke started preparing the portal to the shinobi world, though there was still something bugging his mind. Yoruichi, I can't help but notice that you focused a lot on explaining Konoha to us as opposed to the other hidden villages. Why is that? Questioned Kisuke. What other reason, Dumbus? That's where we're staying. Minato is the new Hagak of the village, and Kushina is his soon-to-be wife, I'm sure they'll be able to help us. Exclaimed Yoruichi, obviously happy at the idea of living in Konoha. The others couldn't argue much either, the village was the most powerful of the 5 great villages, she had friends high up in the system, and of all the villages, Konoha sounded like the most hospitable. Kumo was hidden in the clouds, Kiri was hidden in the mist, oh the humidity. Aiwa was hidden in the rocks, and Suna was hidden in the sand for God's sake, sand everywhere, all over my body, in all its crevices they all shuddered when they thought of it. Nope, not going to Suna anytime soon. Hey pervert. Get going with the portal or do you want us to get caught again? Screamed Hiyori, they had been waiting for at least 10 minutes, and the midget was losing her patience. I'm almost done, why are you so mean to his words died in the back of his throat as he felt the presence of several captains heading towards his lab, along with several others who took on an expression of panic, shit. Tessai start preparing the spell for the portal. Guys, get ready, we're gonna have to rush this. He ordered as he started typing furiously on his computer. Hi. Replied Tessai, starting his spell. You won't get away this time Kisuke, whatever you're planning will not work and you will brought to justice. He recognized the voice of Yamamoto, as well as his Riatsu slam onto him, but he paid it no mind as he kept typing as Tessai finished his incantation, and the cracks could be seen appearing, signifying the opening of the portal. So this is it, thought most of the Visored sadly, as much as they hated Aizen and the Gate 13 after what had happened, they couldn't help but feel a bit sad at leaving their homes. Okay, it's ready. Vizards, you go in first followed by Yoruichi, me, and Tessai will go last to close the portal. Ordered Kisuke, the usual playful smirk and expression gone. One by one they all rushed into the portal as Kisuke was left alone in his lab for what was likely the last time he couldn't help but feel a slight bit of sadness seep into his heart. This was his precious lab, he had spent years building it and probably even more years in it, but he had to leave it, probably to be destroyed by the Gate 13, all because of that bastard Aizen. Well no matter, it can be rebuilt, as a matter of fact I already have an idea of what I'll use as a cover, the Urahara Shoten, has a nice ring to it, maybe sell candy or something he thought with a chuckle as he stepped in the portal and turned around to see that the captains had just managed to get into his lab, tipping his hat to them, he couldn't help but say why. Such an important bunch of people for little old me, after all, I am but a humble shopkeeper. He said with his usual smirk before waving his fan to the enraged captains and closing the portal. Suo, how's this gonna work? I mean we're a bit too many to fit in one house, and we need an area to train and for the Vizards to control their hollows after all. Asked Yoruichi as they walked through the gate towards the shinobi world for how hectic the shinobi world and Soul Society were. The space between the two was surprisingly the least dangerous and creepy of all the portals they had been through, in fact it was quite a sight, it seemed like it was designed by somebody, the floors were made of what looked to be quartz, the walls had water going down them, and if you looked up you could see what they guessed was a lake where the water dropped off, the sound the water made wasn't loud, but relaxing, and the water that fell from the lake seemingly went underground, where they couldn't see, but it made for quite a sight. The roof was also a nice change from the other gates, as there was actually a sky. A bright blue sky like a summer's day, all in all, if you were to compare all the gates in between the worlds one would think this one didn't fit in. Kisuke stayed silent, staring at the sky, seemingly daydreaming, but actually pondering the question. Yoruichi of course didn't know that and proceeded to hit him in the back of the head. Oi, team get your head straight, this is a serious situation, I bailed you idiots out earlier, now it's time you did something. Yelled Yoruichi angrily. Yoruichi, I was listening and was thinking about the same thing myself, Kisuke tried to explain, but seeing that wasn't helping anything he sighed and continued, I was thinking the Vizards would probably want to stay together and that they would want their privacy in the village, so I thought that for now we could ask Minato for a small place to call home and set up shop where we could all live until we could get the Vizards a bigger area. I was also thinking of building the pocket dimensions you and I made back in Soul Society for training and both are in the Vizards' house. Basically the same thing as in canon, he explained. Hearing this Yoruichi smirked and said what do you know, the pervert actually had a good idea, I thought the only thing you were good for was being a crazy pervert scientist that could do nothing but stare at my tits all day, to which Kisuke started crying and I'm tears and muttering why me and also that's not entirely false. What did you say? Nothing. Yeah whatever, once we get to the shinobi world we'll want to explain to them that we are friends with Minato, cause they don't take too kindly to strangers coming into their village. Yoruichi said as the others nodded. I think we also need to agree to something else. The usual quiet Tessai said, earning everybody's attention. What are you talking about Tessai? I think we have this all sorted. Asked Shinji. Well you see, as there are neither Hollow nor Shinigami in this world and the humans can obviously take care of themselves, I think it would be wise for us all to agree to not interfere with the world unless absolutely needed, he explained. You're right, we totally forgot about that, unless we're acting as normal civilians or the human world is in a great danger we shouldn't, in any case, interfere with them, do you all agree? asked Kisuke, earning nods from their whole group. Well then, I think we're ready. Oh. And what do you know, we're at the end of the portal, what timing, he said gleefully while masking his face with his fan. Yeah, whatever you say, perv, said Hiyori. And so they stepped through the portal and took their first steps towards their new life, thinking they would maybe get a small amount of time to rest before something crazy happened. Oh, how wrong they were. Minato thought he was gonna have a good day. He knew there would be a couple tough moments, especially when Kushina was in the process of giving birth. Pretty sure nobody has ever had a smooth childbirth, but whatever, it would be worth it in the end. He would get to go home with his amazing soon-to-be wife and his child, Naruto. All's well that ends well, right? No. Turns out, right after Kushina had given birth, the two that were assisting Kushina, one of them being Bawako, Hirazen's wife, were killed. Then the assassin had taken his son and forced Minato to choose between saving his son's life and staying at Kushina's side, to which he went with the former, leading to Kushina being taken by the masked man and having the Kyuubi extracted from her, which would most likely cause her death. Then the masked fuck, which is the name he had taken to calling him, it was warranted after all, had unleashed the Kyuubi upon the unexpected village, and the newly instated Yondaime couldn't even go to help them immediately, since he had to fight Mr. Masked Fuck. After said fuck ran away, he then proceeded to go help in dealing with Kyuubi. After fighting him one-on-one for a while, he had come to the conclusion that the only way he was going to get rid of him was by sealing him into somebody, a newborn, to be precise, and of course, the only newborn that was there and the only newborn that he could use while still keeping a semblance of morals was his own son, Naruto. So now he was getting ready to seal Kyuubi, and Kushina, with the small amount of energy she had, was trying to hold the Kyuubi down to make the sealing process easier. On top of that, the only seal that he could possibly use to keep the Kyuubi at bay was the Shiki Fujin, which would cause his death, and Kushina would most likely die from the Kyuubi being extracted right after childbirth and chakra exhaustion she's been through. So much tonight, he thought, keeping tears from falling thinking about what she had gone through. I'm so sorry, Kushina. While all that was going on, Yoruichi and the rest of the group had just landed in the Konoha forest near the Hokage monument, where they had a first-seat view at the destruction that was going on. All had looks of horror, confusion and sadness as they gazed upon the remnants of the village. Some of the village, namely the outskirts, were still standing, although burning a bit. The middle of the village was a different story though. The ground was either on fire or scorched, the buildings were all burnt down and destroyed or had been toppled over and then burnt down. There was also a gigantic demon animal thing that looked a lot like a fox, causing all the destruction, while doing what looked to be dodging bright energy chains. What the hell happened here, whispered Yoruichi as she looked down sadly at the village she had come to love over the years and was ready to call her home after the Gatei's betrayal. She was trying to think of whatever monster could have unleashed such destruction until her eyes fell on the Kyuubi, to which her eyes widened even more. The Kyuubi did this. The Kyuubi, you mean that huge fox in the middle of the village? Is it one of those Bijuas you were talking about? Asked Kisuke. He too was shocked. If the Bijua she was talking about could unleash such destruction on what was considered the most powerful of all the great villages, then her comparing them to the Sateicho was definitely well-founded. Yeah, that's the strongest one. The 9 she would have finished her sentence had she not sensed Minato and Kushina seemingly fighting the Kyuubi on their own, while guarding the small presence of what seemed to be a newborn, the presence of which was oddly reminiscent of both Minato and Kushina. Minato. Kushina. That must be their child. What the hell happened? I have to do something. Damn it. I can't help them with what we agreed to. I can at least go and protect their kid while they fight the Kyuubi. She made her decision as she prepared to shunpo towards their location before she felt a hand grab her arm. You can't, Yoruichi. We agreed not to interfere. This isn't major enough for us to help, said Kisuke sadly. He wanted to go help as well, but he knew they couldn't. Shinigami weren't supposed to interfere with the living. Let go of me, Kisuke. Their kid is there, the least I can do is get him to safety. As she pushed Kisuke's arm off and sped towards where the fight was happening. The rest of their group got ready to leave after her before Kisuke stopped them, lifting his arm to stop them. What the hell, pervert? We can't let her fuck around. I want to help too, but we both, she's not supposed to be doing this, yelled Hiyori. Sai, listen, it pains us all to watch this, but I know Yoruichi won't do anything she shouldn't do. She got us here after all. She's smarter than that, he said reassuringly, sending a smile their way. I agree with Kisuke, let's just stand back and make sure she doesn't do anything stupid, said Shinji. The only thing they could do now was hope that everything went for the best down there. Sit still for a second, Kyuubi, screamed Kushina, her frustration at her day getting the best of her. Minato would have sent a sweat drop her way had the situation not been so serious. I don't think he's listening, he thought. They had been fighting the Kyuubi for what seemed like forever, and they were slowly coming to their wits' end. They tried everything they could to avoid sealing the beast in Naruto, but nothing worked, and they had silently and sadly came to the conclusion that the only way they were gonna defeat this thing was by sealing him in Naruto. Naruto. He heard Kushina scream as he spotted the Kyuubi's claw speeding towards their son. As his eyes widened in horror, he wouldn't get there fast enough, no. This can't happen. But to their relief and confusion, mere moments before the claw reached Naruto, a figure got to him, picking him up and dodging the claw. Minato and Kushina let out sighs of relief before Minato realized that they didn't know who this person was. It could be the masked fuck from earlier. Fuck. Can't anything give me a break? He thought frustratingly before he actually saw who it was that had saved his son, the main thing being the purple hair and piercing yellow eyes. He couldn't believe it. Yoruichi. They both thought happily. He had never fought Yoruichi in a spar before. She never seemed to have the time or want, but he knew she was powerful. She was as fast as him and carried herself like a pro of hand to hand. She also held an energy that seemed similar to chakra, but more potent and in high amounts. Needless to say, if she was here to help him, the fight would be a lot easier. The question still remained though. What are you doing here, Yoruichi? Minato asked for the both of them as they all dodged the Kyuubi. That's not important right now, Minato. Mind telling me why Kyuubi has been unleashed in the village and why you're fighting him with your newborn son a couple feet away? She screamed at him, hoping that what she thought he was planning wasn't his actual plan. The only way to stop a tailed beast is to seal him in a newborn infant. I know Minato couldn't ask somebody else to sacrifice their child, but there must be another way. She thought sadly, even if she hoped there was another way, she knew that looking for one was hopeless. Are you planning on sealing the Kyuubi inside Naruto, Minato? She asked sadly, almost rhetorically. Yes, unfortunately it's the only way. I can't ask anybody else to do this. His sad expression turned to a determined one as he looked at Yoruichi in the eyes. But I can only hope that the village will see him for the hero that he is and not the Kyuubi once we're gone. She nodded before she realized the last part of his sentence. Wait, what do you mean once we're gone? You know what I mean, sigh. Unfortunately, the only seal that could hold the Kyuubi back will cause my inevitable death, and after giving birth, having the Kyuubi extracted from her and fighting it, there is slim to no chances of Kushina surviving. He turned back to Yoruichi, his expression turning pleading as he looked at her. I don't know if the villagers will treat him as the hero he is or as the Kyuubi, but whatever happens, could you try to look after him? It'll be hard for him no matter what, and he'll need somebody to show him love. Please, could you do this for me? He pleaded. Of course, you didn't have to ask, besides I was planning on moving to Konoha soon. She answered, now mind telling me what the fuck happened here? She asked. I see, she said after he had finished his fast explanation. The masked man, he said he had the Sharingan, could it be Madara? Is he starting his plan? Ugh, I can never catch a break. It's time. Kushina, hold the Kyuubi down best you can while Yoruichi distacks it. They both nodded as Kushina fired her chakra chains towards the Kyuubi, while Yoruichi was hoping from left to right, occasionally hitting the Kyuubi to keep his attention on her. I'm so sorry, Naruto, I never wanted it to come to this. I can only hope that you're seen as the hero you are instead of the fox, and if you aren't, that you can prove to them that you aren't and that you don't become obsessed with vengeance. Just know that. He chalked on his words as tears started flowing down his face. I'll be watching over you at all times, and that no matter what you do, I'll always be proud of you. He finished with a sad smile as the newborn laughed happily, seemingly comforted by his father's presence, even though the most powerful of the Bijuus was only a couple feet away from him. It's time, he thought as he placed his hands on his child's stomach. Shiki Fujin, the sealing had gone about as smoothly as a Reaper death seal could go, which is to say, it worked. Minato lay dead on the ground, the Kyuubi gone, sealed inside the newborn Naruto. With Kushina, who herself was close to death, crawling over to him. Yoruichi looked over the scene sadly. She couldn't help the tears from flowing after all that had happened. She snapped her attention back to Kushina as she collapsed on her back, exhausted. Can you bring Naruto to me please, Yoruichi? She asked softly. Of course. She whispered as she picked him up and handed him up to her. She didn't say anything, not having the energy to, just holding up and hugging while she cried. Naruto, she whispered softly, I'm sorry about all this. I can only hope that your life takes a better turn in the future and that villagers don't hate you for holding the Kyuubi. Hey Yoruichi. She called out, getting her attention. Yes. I know you already said yes to keeping an eye out for him, but I know that his life won't be easy. He'll probably be alone, and I just wanted to ask you if you could be there for him when he needs it, be somebody he could talk to in the future. It can be motherly, friendly, whatever, just promise me you'll be there for him when he needed. She pleaded to Yoruichi. Oh of course, Kushina. She answered sadly, blinking away more tears that threatened to come up. This is so fucked up. I can only hope they'll find peace in Soul Society, she thought sadly. Thanks, she managed to say weakly, her life energy leaving her. That's all I could ask. She said, her life leaving here with those last words. Wiping her tears away, she picked up Naruto, who smiled up at her, oblivious to what had just happened. She turned around, surprised to see what she recognized as the Sandaime Hokage. Here is Insuritobi, running on the scene. How can you be late to something like this, she thought with a sweat drop despite the situation. What the hell happened here? Yoruichi, why are you here, is that Naruto in your arms? He asked, obviously panicked. And so she explained, becoming more and more tired after each word as she started coming to the realization of what had just happened. I can't believe this happened, I guess I'll have to take my role of Hokage back for now. You said you came here with around 10 other people that were exiled from Soul Society falsely? The Sandaime questioned. He had been told about Soul Society during the earlier wars, when Soul Society had deemed it a good idea to at least inform the Hokage of Yoruichi's missions to their world. Yes, we'll need a place to stay. Urahara said he already had an idea of a shop for now. She answered, before her attention went back to the newborn in her arms, although I sense an enormous amount of spiritual energy flowing out from him. It might be because Minato summoned a Shinigami to seal Kyuubi, I'm not sure, but Sarutobi. If the amount of spiritual energy he has right now is any indicator of his potential, then I would like to suggest the idea of me adopting Naruto. I promised to Minato and Kushina that I would take care of him, and I know you'll be busy. I can also train him in the Shinigami ways and in hand-to-hand and speed while he goes to the academy. I can also protect him from the villagers if they hate him for the Kyuubi. He might also prove useful against Aizen once he makes his move in the future. I don't see any downside to this. I'll also be able to tell him about his parents when he is ready. She proposed. Honestly, Hiruzen couldn't see any downside to this. He knew the council might try and protest this, but this would be one thing he would put his foot down for. I agree, although we'll have to speak to the council about this, but I won't let them do what they want with him. Thanks. Boy, Yoruichi. What the fuck happened here? Who's Gramps? You owe us a recap for this. Screamed Hiyori as the rest of the group arrived. They felt it was safe to head to where the battle had happened, seeing as they saw the Kyuubi disappearing. After she explained the situation, Hiyori turned to Sarutobi, and who the fuck are you Gramps? You look like a perv, you and Urahara get along fine. She said, earning a sweat drop from everybody. My name is Hiruzen Sarutobi, Sandaime Hokage. I'm guessing all of you are the people Yoruichi brought with her. He said as he looked over everybody. It was no doubt an odd group, going from tiny midgets to pink-haired 8-foot giants, but he didn't judge them off that. He could sense an incredible amount of energy coming off of them all. He knew they could all stand their own against even him, which gained them his immediate respect. Yep, and by the way, ignore Snaggletooth over here, she's been a bit moody recently. A blonde man with a Cheshire grin said, ignoring a what the fuck did you just say? And a sandal of all things to face, he introduced himself, Shinji Hirako, pleased to meet you. Ujiro Toribashi, but you can call me Rose, pleasure. A man with purple eyes and long, wavy blonde hair said. Love Akawa, sup, a man with sunglasses and an afro, with a laid-back expression introduced. Ensei Muguruma. Grunted a tall, muscular man with sharp features with light gray hair and sharp features. My name's Mashiro Irojiji. Said a bubbly girl with green hair as she jumped, striking a superhero pose. It's Hiyori, not Snaggletooth or Midget got it Gigi. A midget with blonde hair, freckles and her apparent weapon, her sandals, at her feet told him, seemingly bored. Lisa Yadamaru, hey Gigi, you seem like you would own erotica, care to share? A balk-haired girl with turquoise eyes asked. Hachijin Ashoda, pleasure to meet you Sarutobi Dono, a pink-haired 8-foot-tall giant said respectfully. Hesai Tsukabishi, pleasure to meet you as well. A tall, muscular tan-skinned man told him, bowing his head a bit. Isuqrahara, scientist and future humble shop owner, pleasure to meet this village's Hokage, a man with a bucket hat and a fan covering his face, that didn't hide the playful smirk that you could practically hear coming of him, told him mirthfully. Hiruzen nodded, quite the odd group you have here Yoruichi, she scoffed, well, no matter, I'm sure I could find a place for you all to stay for now, but before that I'll need you to come with me to discuss with the council the adoption of young Naruto here. The child seemingly giggled at the mention of his name, earning a shout of kawaii from Mashiro. Wait, what do you mean adoption? You didn't tell us about that Yoruichi, why are you adopting him? Asked Shinji, surprised. Yoruichi wasn't the type of person he could see tying herself down to a child. I thought I told you, I made a promise to Minato and Kushina that I would take care of him with the villagers that will probably hate him for Kyuubi, besides, I think he's taken a liking to me. She explained, staring lovingly at the young blonde. Besides, can't you feel the Reiatsu flowing out of him? He has enormous potential as both Shinigami and Shinobi with the Kyuubi in him. Wow, you're right, it might go down soon, but this Reiatsu is that of a high-seated officer. I think we were just surprised at you adopting him. Kisuke said, now even more interested in the young child. The Kyuubi inside of him was already cause enough to pay attention to him, and the Reiatsu only added more reason. Well, now I'll have to ask you all to follow me to the Hokage monument where we will discuss about Naruto with the council, and we will find a place for all of you. The Sandaime said. Hi. Yoruichi responded as she followed after him, turning around and waving her arm in her direction, motioning for the group to follow, which they did. They all arrived at the Hokage monument, only for the Sandaime to get bombarded with questions from everybody. What happened Sandaime-sama? Where is Yondaime-sama? Where is the Kyuubi? Who are these people? Silence. He bellowed, authority laced in his voice, all will be explained in due time, for now I will be meeting with the council, the people beside me are to be treated with respect while I congregate with the council. Yoruichi, if you will follow me. He made his way up the stairs, with Yoruichi behind him, Naruto still in her arms, now asleep. He opened the door to the council room, raising his hand to avoid people asking questions. Let us get organized, and your questions will be answered, one at a time. They all nodded, the Sandaime made his way to his desk sitting down with Yoruichi behind him, to his left. Okay, first question, Fukagu. Fugaku nodded, sitting up. For the question we all want answered, what happened to Yondaime-sama? He questioned, earning a nod from the Sandaime. The Yondaime has died, shocked looks went around the room, gasps echoing from everybody, he died after summoning the Shinigami to seal the Kyuubi inside a newborn child. Sad looks came from the council, most of the village loved the Yondaime, hearing his demise came as a demoralizer in these tough times. Yes Hiashi. Hiashi stood up, bowing slightly to the now Hokage. Arigato Hokage-sama, am I right in assuming that the child held by the woman behind you is its Jinchuriki? He asked, though he would not hate the child if he knew better, he still wanted to know. Yes, indeed, this will be a S-rank secret to the villagers and the ninja under Jonin rank, understood. He will not be seen as the Kyuubi, the Yondaime sealed the Kyuubi inside this child and wished for him to be seen as a hero. He is keeping the Kyuubi at bay as we speak, and I will refuse any hate be sent towards this child. He is to be adopted by Yoruichi behind me. He said, his voice having a slight edge of a threat in it. The shinobi side nodded, knowing that the child was not the Kyuubi, the villagers thought, were another story, as outraged cries rang around. You can't be serious Hokage-sama. This child is the Kyuubi. He's a demon, he can't be kept alive. He would have kept speaking had a pressure reminiscent of a train not came crashing on him. He stopped talking as he fell to his knees, gasping for air. Would you mind saying that again? Asked an enraged Yoruichi. I can't believe it. Naruto's the only thing keeping them alive right now and they're saying he's a demon. They can't even grant their savior's dying wishes. She thought angrily. In case you missed what Hokage-sama said, the Yondaime wished for this child to be seen as the hero he is for keeping the Kyuubi at bay, and you will have to go through me if you wish to cause any harm to him. She spoke in a calm but threatening tone. Hi. Even though I agree with keeping him alive, I do not agree with what you are doing with him right now. He is a weapon and shall be used as one. Let me take him in, and I will turn him into this village's secret weapon. Spoke Danzo. No, that will not happen Danzo, not today, not ever, the child is to live a normal life and to go to the academy, the only special training he will receive is from Yoruichi and her friends. Said Hiruzen with a tone of finality, if there was one thing that he wouldn't let happen was for Naruto to be turned into a living weapon. But Hokage-sama, I will hear nothing of you Danzo. If I see you even attempting to lay a hand on the boy I will have you executed. Yelled the Hokage, shutting Danzo up. If that is all, this meeting is adjourned, go back to your families after these tragic events and cherish them, the village will be providing shelter for everybody without a house, and tomorrow we will talk about reconstruction, good night. The council nodded, it had been a long night and they all wanted to go home to their still alive family members and sleep. Well that was easier than expected. Spoke Kisuke, his normal playful demeanor back after the day's events. Yes indeed, now if you will, let us discuss where you will all be living. Hiruzen said getting nods from everybody. As Naruto is the child of the Yondaime and is such a member of the Namikaze clan, I suggest you all stay at their compound for now. I know Minato and Kushina didn't live in a compound, but it doesn't make sense for them not to have one at all. He suggested, everybody agreed, aside from Yoruichi, who had a confused expression on her face. Wait, but I thought Naruto's heritage was to be kept a secret till he was older. Spoke a confused Yoruichi. Yes, but the house is in the Konoha forest, and as such nobody will see you entering it with all the things that have happened. He explained, getting a nod from her. Well, if that is all I will give you the directions to the house, you will also need Naruto's blood to enter, as the house is protected by seals that will only respond to Namikaze's blood. Well what are we waiting for, I'm so excited to see this compound. Said Kisuke excitedly, with a stupid smile on his face. Yeah whatever perv let's just go. Yoruichi grumbled, fighting the urge to kick him in the balls, as Kisuke whined at a response. Wow. They all spoke at the same time upon gazing at the house, no mansion before them, it was fucking huge easily the size of a small building, how they didn't see it sticking out from the forest was a mystery, but that wasn't what they were focusing on. I can't believe Minato always had this house and never once showed it to me, bastard grumbled Yoruichi under breath, oh well, it's mine now she thought happily. Yes indeed, Minato Dono owned a quite beautiful house. Tessai said, agreeing with Yoruichi. Well what are you idiots waiting for, I'm fucking tired and Baldi's starting to get on my nerves. Exclaimed Hiyori as she ran into the house, pushing everybody out the way. Damn midget, spoke Shinji inwardly, I'm taking the top floor. He screamed, running past them. After everybody had entered there were only Kisuke and Yoruichi left at the front door. You okay? Asked Kisuke, his playful attitude gone. He understood his friend had gone through a lot today. Yeah, I'm fine, just a lot on my mind. She answered, smiling at him. He shrugged and stepped into the house. Well, here we go, Yoruichi thought, sighing. She looked back down at the sleeping infant and smiled. He's so cute. 6 years later. Wake up, Naru-chan. Today's your first day at the academy and I'm sure you would hate to be late. He heard Yoruichi say in a sweet yet threatening voice, threatening that if he didn't get up he would be forced to, in painful way no matter, it's not like he needed to be woken up today, it was his first day at the academy. He wasn't that excited for the academy itself, he had already been trained by Yori-chan since he was 4 and she was miles above any instructor in the academy. No, he was excited for meeting new friends, or his first friends. It was also his first time going into the village since his 5th birthday. He decided not to dwell on that thought as he screamed a quick "I'll be down in 2 minutes." And put his clothes on, a black shirt with a Uzumaki swirl on it and dark green shorts, opening and then slamming shut the door behind him and jumping from the 2nd to 1st floor, totally disregarding the stairs. He ran through the living room, straight to the kitchen where he could already smell the delicious smell of ramen entering his nose and ground his heels into the ground to slow himself down before sitting in his chair, looking up to see who was already up. Morning Uncle Kisuke, Tessai, Yori-chan. He said quickly, receiving a chorus of mornings from the 3 people. Yori-chan, why am I getting ramen for breakfast today? Not that I'm complaining. He asked, practically drooling at the side of the bowl. The reason why there were only Kisuke, Tessai, Yoruichi and Naruto here right now was because, after they had first moved into the compound, they had spotted a second, smaller part of the mansion across the training grounds. That was where the 4 had decided to stay, so the Vizards lived in the bigger part of the mansion, while the others lived across from them, in the smaller house. That wasn't to say that they didn't interact, on the contrary, Naruto and Hiyori often had arguments, similar to the ones she had with Shinji. Speaking of him, Naruto and him often teamed up to make fun of Hiyori, which had earned Shinji several fractures and had earned Naruto and the rest of the big group the most terrifying memory of their lives. This is sort of an omic. I just decided to put it here, you can skip without missing out on the story. Flashback. Eat my sandal, Baldy. Hiyori screamed at the top of her lungs as she lunged at Shinji, sandal armed and ready, and threw him into the wall. She then turned towards a terrified Naruto, who was almost regretting what he had done, but was also forcing himself not to burst out laughing as he stared at her. Flashback in a flashback. It was a Sunday, the only day when the Vizards allowed themselves to rest. They trained every day, in preparation for their revenge against Aizen, and Hiyori was determined to stay in bed all day and do absolutely nothing. No Baldy today, no Whiskers brat, nothing but her bed and her sandal, which she loved more than anything in the world. But of course those delightful plans had to be cancelled. The first problem she noticed was the sudden absence of the birds' chirps, almost as if something had come and scared them away. All of a sudden she was on her guard. Baldy, Whiskers Gaki. I swear on my sandal, if you try anything today you'll be 6 foot under by noon. I already told you not to call me that, Snaggletooth. Was all she heard before. In the blink of an eye, Naruto was in front of her and had dumped a bucket of honey on her head. What the fuck? She screamed as she threw the bucket off her head, wiping her eyes clear of the honey, ready to dodge whatever was next, but it was too late. She could barely hear Shinji giggling with her honey-filled ears before he threw what was probably an entire bag of feathers on her. She could once again see, so she turned around towards where Shinji was laughing his ass off and was about to make do on her earlier promise before she heard, that's not who you should be focusing on, Hai-chan. Naruto called out gleefully. She turned around only to receive a bucket of pink paint thrown onto her. Haha, that's what I'm talking about, Naruto. Now let's go, before she actually buries us. She heard Shinji laugh out and high-five with Naruto before they ran out into the training grounds, where the entire group was. They had been informed they would get a surprise by Naruto and Shinji. Okay guys, only a couple seconds before she gets here. 3, 2, 1. Whiskers Gaki. I don't care if those are birthmarks, you'll be missing them soon. And Baldy, you better say goodbye to your teeth. Was the sound the group heard as they were greeted by the sight of somebody who had the same outline as Hiyori, but was covered in honey, feathers and pink paint. Needless to say, they all burst out laughing. You better shut up or I'll be coming for you too. That got some of them, namely Kensei, who thought this was too childish, Hachijin and Tessai, out of respect, although they still had trouble not smiling at the sight. Rose and Love were obviously amused and were sniggering at the sight. Some of them didn't even try. Yoruichi was rolling on the ground. Kisuke had tried to suppress his laughter to match his normal attitude, but even he couldn't resist as he was soon rolling next to her. Michiro, for her part, was excited as always, jumping around Hiyori, screaming and giggling NIWATORI Chicken-chan. Dodging Hiyori's infuriated kicks. Lisa had, oddly enough, pulled out a notebook and was drawing what looked to be Hiyori's honey, feather and paint costume on sexy women, muttering to herself, "That's such a good idea, how come I never thought of that? Eat my sandal, Baldy." Flashback in a flashback done. So now Naruto was stuck in between praying to whatever god was out there or just laughing his ass off and taking responsibility for his actions by having his whiskers ripped off, even though they were birthmarks. He didn't have time to think that though as Hiyori was already in front of her sandal at the ready. "Well, I've lived a good 4.5 years, life has been good to me. I have no regrets," he thought as he prepared to take the brunt force of Hiyori's armored sandal. His closed eyes, however, opened when, instead of feeling pain, he felt honey. Feather and paint covered hand stretching out his cheeks. "Oh, who am I kidding, I couldn't lay a finger on you, you're so cute," she thought, rubbing her cheek against his whiskers. Silence. Everybody, Yoruichi and Kisuke, who were rolling on the floor of laughter a second ago, Lisa, who had dropped her notebook by now, Mishiro as well, even she couldn't comprehend what had happened, but knew it went against even the most basic laws of nature. Hachijin and Tessai were in the same boat. Shinji, who by now had come back, was stunned into silence. Rose and Love had lost their amused expression for ones of horror. Hell, even Kensei was shocked. Did she just say something, that something being Naruto of all things, was cute? They all thought in horror, her costume by now forgotten. Poor Naruto had already fainted from the shock of thinking he was going to die, to the shock of Hiyori calling him cute. Hiyori, okay, maybe that honey got a bit too far into your ears, might want to see check out a doctor or something? Asked Shinji in horror, raising a trembling finger and pointing it at her. What? I'm a girl, I have to find something cute, and those whiskers get me every time, don't get any ideas. He's still a gaki. I'm going to take a shower now, she said, turning around, dropping Naruto. Before she was gone, she turned around one last time to say, "Oh, and I don't think it needs to be said that if this ever gets out, you can all say goodbye to your reproductive parts." They all nodded, terrified. "Also Shinji, don't think you're off the hook, watch your back." Shinji screamed, surprised and terrified, and jumped behind Tessai. That day stayed forever ingrained in their minds. Even so, they all vowed to never speak word of it again, and when Naruto had woken up, they told him it was just a dream, which he had gladly accepted as an explanation. Flashback end. Back to story. "It's your first day at the academy, don't you think that's a special occasion, Naru-chan?" She responded, not even bothering to call him out on calling her Yoru-chan. After all, she called him Naru-chan, it was only fair after all. She placed the bowl in front of him. Yeah, I guess," he said while scarfing down his ramen, earning a glare from Yoruichi for eating like that. As she looked at him eating, already almost done with his bowl, she couldn't help but reminisce on the past 6 years. The first 3 years had been normal. Those years weren't any different from any kid's childhood, well, at least not much, the only difference being that he didn't go in the village. She simply didn't see the need to, and she was a bit worried about the village's reception to him, so she just stayed clear of bringing him there. On his 4th birthday, she had told him she would start training him. She smiled as she remembered how happy he was. She had first done physical conditioning, so his body could handle the strain of training. After that, she had agreed to train him in speed, hand-to-hand and basic chakra control. She couldn't actually teach him, seeing as she didn't use chakra. She had, however, borrowed a couple books from the library. She couldn't actually enter the shinobi section, so she had asked Hiruzen to bring him some books on the subject, to which he happily agreed. Turns out he was a natural at harnessing speed and hand-to-hand, easily being mid-gen in level at the both of them at the young age of 5. He had also learned the tree and water walking exercises for chakra control. He also, surprising as it was for him, meditated a lot. He said it helped him get a grip on his vast amounts of chakra and was also nice for relaxing. The day of his 5th birthday was easily the worst day of his life, and the exile since they had arrived to Konoha. She winced as she remembered what happened. As it was said before, Yoruichi stayed clear of bringing Naruto to the village, simply because she didn't see the use of doing so, and was worried of how the villagers would react. Turns out she was right to be worried. Forever Naruto had been begging her to go into the village, and after ages of it, she had relented to it, saying they would go on his 5th birthday, not realizing what event was held in the village on his birthday. And so the day had came. They had arrived to the village to see the village lit up and everybody partying. Yoruichi had immediately realized what was going on and cursed herself for bringing Naruto on this day. It was the day of the celebration Kyuubi's defeat, and today the villagers would probably be extra evil if they saw Naruto. She quickly moved to stop Naruto from heading into the village, only to realize he had already left while she was thinking. She cursed herself for her inattention and sped into the village. She had looked for about 30 minutes, and by then she was really worried. Who knows where he could be? They could have already done so much to him in 30 minutes. She just hoped he had managed to evade them. Turns out that didn't happen. She had heard what sounded like a child's cry and instantly headed there, where she had come up onto a dead-end alleyway, only to see what looked to be a crowd of 10 to 15 villagers surrounding a small, bloody figure. That was probably one of the most terrifying events of her life. She had come to care for Naruto over the past 5 years, not in a motherly way, that wasn't even how they interacted, not in a sibling-like manner, she honestly couldn't say, but she had come to care a lot for the kid, and seeing his beaten and bloody form, with glass shards stuck in him, burn marks, probably from cigarettes and cuts deep enough to reach bone, had enraged her more than ever before. She had released so much Reiatsu that the Vizards, Kisu Kantesai, had felt it all the way from the house, and had headed out to find her, only to come up on a dark alleyway, with a beaten Naruto lying with his head in Yoruichi's lap, as she carefully removed the glass shards from his body. 12 dead bodies around them, confused and horrified at seeing Naruto in such a state, they had asked what had happened, and once she had explained, needless to say they were angry that they couldn't have a piece of the people who had done this to him. After all that, Hachijin had set up a healing Kido around Naruto and headed back to the house so he could rest. Everybody aside from Kisuke and Yoruichi had gone with him, as they had to stay to explain what had happened. Once the Hokage had appeared with an Anbu squad, troubled by the energy he had felt. He had received an explanation as to what had happened and asked what Yoruichi's punishment would be, to which the old Hokage replied by shrugging and saying that the sentence that those villagers would have received was execution anyways, and had told them to simply go back to their house, which they did. Naruto's healing factor had been the only reason why Naruto had fully recovered. If it wasn't for it, he probably would have been handicapped for life. He had woken up 3 days later to a crying Yoruichi apologizing for what had happened. Confused, he had asked exactly what had happened. After that he had been assaulted into a hug by a, once again crying and apologizing Yoruichi. Shocked at her display of emotion, he had simply told her he didn't blame her for anything, and that it wasn't her fault, which had seemingly worked, although he could still see she was feeling a bit guilty. The next part had been the most surprising. Yoruichi and Kisuke had then proceeded to explain to him his heritage, that he was the son of Uzumaki Kushina and Minato Namikaze. Needless to say he had been shocked, but then again it explained why they were staying at the Namikaze estate. They had also told him that, as he was their son, he had access to Minato's jutsus, the Rasengan and Hiraishin, and that he would have access to them once he was a genin, and the Uzumaki's secret seals. Once again, he was ecstatic. Then they had explained what would no doubt be the hardest thing to explain, the fact he was the Kyuubi's jailer. At first he had come to the conclusion that he was the demon, which had earned him a slap by Yoruichi screaming at him about how he wasn't a demon, and that demons didn't act the way he did, which had worked to comfort him. They had also told him the reason why his father had chosen him. Truth be told, he had already come to the conclusion, it was pretty obvious after all, so he hadn't held a grudge. The final revelation had been that of the Shinigami, the whole story, Soul Society, Hollows, Zanpakuto, that everybody he lived with was one, that the 3/4 of them were half hollows, which he had shrugged off saying it didn't matter, and that he wasn't racist, how Aizen was a traitor, and because of him they had been exiled, which had led to Naruto developing an intense hatred for the man. And how they would be training him in the Shinigami arts and giving him his own Zanpakuto once he was ready. He was jumping for joy until he realized that they had said he would start training when he was ready, which would apparently be once he turned 8. For what reason, he didn't know, but he guessed he didn't have a right to complain. And so the next year passed, very much similar to the last, him training his speed in hand-to-hand with Yoruichi. She had to admit that, after only 2 years, he had come a very long way. He would be able to rival her in Hakuta if he had the experience and physical condition for it, and she knew that once he grew he would outrival her in speed. Needless to say, her assumption that he had potential had been spot on, and they hadn't even gotten into Zanjutsu and Kido yet. Although he had been taking Kenjutsu lesson with Kisuke and Kensei, he was also talented in that, even though nowhere near his 2 mentors, which was normal, he still had potential. He had also upped his chakra control to the level of a Chunin and had found his chakra natures, being a rare 3, wind, lightning and fire. She didn't realize how rare such a thing was until she reported it to the Hokage, who had been shocked and left muttering something about 1-in-a-century prodigies. He had already learned the 3 jutsu required to graduate the academy, although because of his chakra, he had learned the Kage Bunshin over the normal Bunshin. He had even learned Shunshin. After all, it was only an E-rank jutsu. The only reason you didn't learn it till later on was because of the chakra consumption, which was no problem for him. And finally he had started to master his 3 elements. He had already completed his wind control exercises and learned a couple C-rank jutsus for it. C-rank was the highest rank he had been allowed to learn, which was understandable. He had started training over the fire element and was about halfway done with it. Lightning he had left for last. Needless to say, he was what could be called a prodigy, even though he hated being called one. It insinuated that he hadn't worked for his skills, which he had. In fact, he considered being called one an insult over anything. She finished her little reminiscing session to see a concert-looking Naruto hovering above her, poking her face. "Boy, you there, Yori-chan?" he asked, poking his finger on her forehead. She slapped his hand off and glared half-heartedly at him. "Of course I'm here, Naru-chan. I was just thinking, something I don't think you can do," she said, irritated at his poking. "Now, if you're ready, let's go." she muttered, throwing his bag at him, which he caught. He whined, "What did I do to deserve this cruel treatment?" "Nothing," she said, earning a deadpan look from him, "I just like to play with you." She teased. "Whatever," he muttered. "Where's the academy anyways?" "It's not that far, follow me," she exclaimed as she jumped up on a tree branch, "if you can." As she started jumping from branch to branch. "Hey, wait for me." He called out, seeing her just turn her head back and stick her tongue out at him, he saw it was hopeless, ugh, damn it. Yoruichi arrived at the academy, looking fresh and relaxed, and turned her head back just in time to see Naruto arriving. The second he touched ground he fell and light on it, panting and sweating like a madman. "Damn," panted Yoru Pant-chan, "that pant wasn't fair," he said, breathing the last two words out at a fast pace before going back to breathing heavily. "Oh, that was nothing, little Naru-chan," he glared at her, "consider that your warm-up for the next 6 years here," she said as she helped him up. Yeah, we'll see if you'll be saying that once I'm faster than you," he muttered, earning a giggle from Yoruichi. "Oh, I can't wait to see that day," she giggled. "Whatever, we're here," he told her, pointing at the academy. Dozen of families had already arrived and he noticed several of them, the parents at least, had quieted up since he arrived and had started glaring at him. He heard several whispers of demon brat, which he all ignored. He had prepared himself for them and honestly couldn't care less about these people's opinion of him. Yoruichi though, was a different story as she had starting openly growling at the people around them. "It's fine, let them say what they want, I don't care about these people's opinion of me. Thanks though." He reassured, putting a hand on her shoulder. She turned her head to look towards and her eyes softened. She knew he was fine with this, but it didn't mean she was. Number 6-year-old should have to deal with this bullshit. Nonetheless, she listened to him and kept walking. They soon arrived at a small reception. After having filled out a couple papers and saying goodbye to him, wishing him luck, she had left back to the house, leaving him to head to room 105. He opened the door just in time to hear his now sensei, who the name of was Iruka Yamino if he wasn't mistaken, call out Uzumaki Naruto. "Yes," he said from the doorway, surprising several people hadn't noticed him when he entered. He took a good look at his sensei, he seemed good enough, hopefully he didn't automatically hate him because of the Kyuubi, although looking at his eyes, he could see what looked to be buried hatred in them, almost as if he had forced himself to not put prejudice on Naruto but was instead waiting to see if everybody else's prejudice was well founded. He could respect that, he didn't let hatred cloud his judgment. He already liked Iruka more than what seemed to be his assistant. He didn't know his name and he didn't want to, just one look at him and he could already see the hatred the man held for Naruto. He would definitely have to stay clear of the assistant. He then turned his intimidating gaze towards the class. The analytic look make more than a couple flinch. They could already see that he could see straight through them. They could also see he was miles above his whole class. Hell, maybe even the teacher wasn't on his level. Iruka looked a bit intimidated for a second before he remembered he was the teacher and went back to his normal smile. He looked upon the class, it was a full of clan heirs. He could already see the heirs of the Inyazuka, Hyuga, Aburame, Uchiha, Akimichi, Nara and Yamanaka clans. The Inyazuka looked like most would, brash, impulsive, but was probably a good friend. The Hyuga heir looked very shy, he could tell by the way she reacted to his stare. She was intimidated by him and had self-confidence issues. If he became friends with her he would try to solve those problems. The Aburame heir was like most, he looked mysterious, not shy, but voluntarily distant. The Akimichi heir was, once again, the picture of what one would look like. He looked fine. The Nara was obviously bored. He could tell the Nara was smart by the way he had reacted to his stare. The Nara wasn't intimidated by it. He could tell there was no threat in it. He looked to be lazy though as he was staring out into the clouds before Naruto had made his presence known. The Yamanaka heir looked nothing like what you expect a heir to look like. She looked more dressed to be going to a date than anything, and the way he was staring at the Uchiha heir confirmed his suspicions. She was a fangirl. Nothing that couldn't be fixed. She just had to find her reason to fight and her determination, and she would be fine. Speaking of the Uchiha heir, he was the only one who had returned his stare. The Uchiha obviously thought he was intimidating Naruto as he smirked a smug smirk in the middle of their stare and looked away, as if he thought Naruto had been intimidated by him. He could see the Yamanaka heir and a civilian child looking at the Uchiha as if he was some god, which further confirmed his thought that he would have to knock the Uchiha down a peg at least before he became a ninja, otherwise he would get himself killed. "Ah, Uzumaki Naruto, you're here, there's a seat next to Shikamaru Nara if you will," Iruka told him. He nodded and headed towards his seat. "Shikamaru, I have the feeling we'll be good friends," he thought as he sat next to him and nodded towards the young heir, a nod which was returned. "So, mind telling me the names of everybody here? I only know the last names of the heirs," he asked Shikamaru, who nodded and began to tell him everybody's names. "Okay, thanks, I'll make sure to remember them. Now if you don't mind, I'll be taking my nap," he said, earning a silenced laugh from Shikamaru. "I'm lazy too, but even I wouldn't sleep on the first day. I hope you have someone at home who can teach you all this." replied Shikamaru, actually intrigued. This kid seemed like better company than most of his class, all the others, aside from maybe Choji, were annoying. Nah, don't worry, I could probably be Chunin if I wanted to, but I want to make a couple friends, live a normal childhood, well, as normal as I can after 6 years of never going into the village. He answered, earning a surprised look from Shikamaru. Chunin, he can't be serious, besides what's that about never going into the village? This dude's interesting, that's for sure. Wait, Chunin. What are you talking about, and what about never going to the village? At this point Iruka's lecture was completely forgotten. I've lived in a house in the Konoha forest since I was born, I've been trained by Yori-chan since I was 4. I already have Jonin chakra control, know my chakra natures, and have mastered one of them. I also have Chunin speed, I can already do the Shunshin, and with more experience and physical, I'd easily be Jonin level in Taijutsu and speed, although for Jinjutsu I have nothing. I'm not interested in it anyways. He explained, smirking when he saw the shocked face of Shikamaru. Wow, if what all he just said is true then he definitely is interesting, that being an understatement. He said he's been training since he was 4, so in 2 years he's done all that, at his age. What the hell, man, thought an impressed and surprised Shikamaru. I also have my family seals I can learn, but those are too dangerous for now. He excluded the fact that he also had the Kyuubi in him, which was another source of power, his dad's heritage, since it was supposed to be a secret, and the part where he would also have Shinigami powers. Wow, heh, you definitely are interesting, and not stuck up like that damned Ichiha. He told Naruto. Thanks, I guess. Hey Naruto. Are you listening? He heard Iruka yell as he turned to face him. Yeah, I was Yumino-san, Shikamaru was just telling me everybody's names and introducing himself. He answered half-truthfully, the part where he was listening was a lie, the rest was true. More like you were introducing yourself and I was sitting there shocked. He heard Shikamaru mutter as he suppressed a laugh. Whatever, just answer the question, who were the 4 Hokage of our village? Iruka asked, honestly hoping that Naruto would give him the right answer. He didn't want to automatically believe this kid was some sort of demon. Easy enough, the first Hokage or Shodan was Hashirama Senju, a member of the Senju clan, one of the most powerful clans to have ever existed, although the only living member of it is Tsunade Senju now. Hashirama was one of the, if not the most powerful ninja of all time alongside Madara Uchiha. He was best known for his mastery over Mokuton, a release only he has ever shown, and one of the most powerful Kekkei Genkai ever, and his knowledge and mastery over the sage arts. The second Hokage or Nidain was Tobirama Senju, Hashirama's brother. He was also extremely powerful, although not as much as his brother Madara. He was mostly known for his incredible mastery over the water element and his sword, the Raijin no Ken. The third Hokage or Sandaime was Hiruzen Sarutobi, a member of the Sarutobi clan, known for having the summoning contract over the monkeys. He was known as Kami, no shinobi in his prime. He was also the student of both Hashirama and Tobirama Senju. The fourth and final Hokage, or Yondaime, was Minato Namikaze, also called Konoha's Yellow Flash for his exploits in the Third Great Shinobi War. He was the fastest shinobi to have ever existed, thanks to his jutsu, the Hiraishin. He died during the Kyuubi attack, sacrificing himself to kill the Kyuubi. He explained. The whole class was silent in shock, Iruka especially. He had been expecting to receive the names of the Hokage, not a short biography on them, by a 6-year-old no less. He coughed to get the class's attention back on him. That was excellent, Naruto, I hope you were all listening. He said. A day passed, mostly with Naruto trying not to fall asleep, for fear of his ears being blown off by Iruka. He had come to an agreement with Shikamaru however, they would alternate window seats each day, so tomorrow Shikamaru would endure the torture. And so he headed back home, ready to go back to the academy again tomorrow, and again, and again, and again. 2 years later, the last 2 years had gone well for Naruto. He had made good friends with Shikamaru, and often went to his clan compound to play shogi, or hang out. Shikamaru's father, Shikaku, was smart enough to see the difference between Naruto and the Kyuubi. He had also made friends with Hinata, and, as he had said he would, fixed, well at least partially, her self-confidence issue. She still had trouble with strangers, but at least she spoke to her friends normally. Hinata's father, Hiashi, also saw the difference in between Naruto and the Kyuubi, and had even asked Naruto if he could teach Hinata from time to time, to which he had happily agreed. He had made friends with Kiba and Yuzuka, Choji Akimichi and Shino Aburam, but he wasn't as close with them as he was with Hinata and Shikamaru. He had also tried making friends with Ino Yamanaka and Sakura Haruno, the two Uchiha Sasuke fangirls. He tried to break them of their fangirlish ways, but after a while he had just abandoned. Those two didn't seem to work with reason, only listening to their Sasuke-kun. Speaking of Sasuke, he mostly ignored him, otherwise he would get pissed at him. His training with Yoruichi and Kisuke had gone along great, he would now be able to rival Yoruichi in hand-to-hand if he had more experience and could use his spiritual energy, same went for Kisuke in Zanjutsu, he could stand up to him when he released his Zanpakuto, although if Kisuke used the full power of his Shikai, he would get blown back. He had also mastered his 3 elements and had learned up to be a rank jutsus in all of them. He had also started with learning the basics in seals, although he would only start learning his clan seals in 2 years when his godfather, Jiraiya of the Sannin, would come back to Konoha. But that wasn't what he was focusing on at the moment, what he was focusing on was the fact that he was stuck in a 50-meter deep hole, with his arms tied around his back and his chain of faith 1 hour affixing way from completely being eaten. Thinking about it, he realized why Kisuke and Yoruichi hadn't let him do this before, hell, he was wondering why they were letting him do this now. Damn it Kisuke, you crazy bastard, why did you let me do this? His thoughts were disrupted as his chain of faith started eating itself again. Wait, what? My chain is on its last links, I was supposed to have another hour. He thought in a panic, the last thing he heard was Yoruichi's panicked scream, and then, darkness. After 4. Where's your resolve? Naruto's mindscape. Ugh, if I get out of this alive somehow, Kisuke's dying Naruto thought as he tried to sit up from his prone position on the wet floor he had woken up on, before a pounding headache hit him, and he was forced to lie back down, holding his head. He had no idea where he was, he could remember his chain of fate being eaten up, and Yoruichi's panic scream before he had fallen unconscious. Maybe this was his mindscape, if this is my mindscape, I really need help. What he had now decided was his mindscape was definitely not what he was expecting it to be, the whole area was basically a sewer, dark, damp and dank, aside from the giant iron bars, that looked like a gate, with the kanji for seal in the middle of it, which he had guessed was the seal for Kyuubi, there weren't that many things that it could be after all. Boy, Kyuubi, if you're in there, show yourself. He yelled out at the gate. I wouldn't recommend you do that, Naruto. He heard a calm voice say behind him, surprised, he made a quick 180 to see who the person was. The person was what most would consider a normal man, he looked at least, he was fairly tanned, had black eyes with brown hair and a normal facial structure, the only thing that made him look odd was his clothing, he was wearing what looked like a Shinigami outfit, from what Naruto knew them to look like, except that it was white, with 6 magatamas along its collar, all in all. He looked fairly normal, but Naruto could tell he was powerful, extremely powerful. Who are you? Naruto asked calmly, the person in front of him was extremely powerful, but the energy he was exuding was peaceful, brimming with life, the more he felt it, the more he wanted to be near it, just being near it made him feel more powerful, almost as if the person's energy was seeping into him. The man's energy was so potent and filled with life he made the sewer on his side turn into a grassy plain, with beautiful trees. My name is Asura Otsutsuki. Asura said, staring Naruto directly in the eyes. Ha, bet you weren't expecting that. Inside Kisuke's hideout, with Yoruichi and the others, Naruto. Yoruichi screamed in a panic as she prepared to go down to try and help him, before she was restrained by Kisuke, who had grabbed her arm and was looking at her with a sad expression. The only way for him not to turn into a hollow now is for him to meet his Zanpakuto inside his mindscape and defeat his inner hollow, which will have formed by now. He said calmly, although Yoruichi could tell he was pained by this, as was the rest of the group, all of the exiles, even Hiyori, had come to regard Naruto as family over the years, and having to sit here watching him turn into a hollow was hard for all of them. But what if he can't defeat it, she asked, even though she already knew the answer. I'm afraid you know the answer to that question. He said sadly, before looking back down the pit, only to be surprised by the sight he beheld. The white substance that had been coming out of Naruto, signifying his holification, had stopped invading his body, in fact, it was slowly going back into the hollow hole Naruto had developed. He could also feel the energy that was seeping from Naruto, it gave off a peaceful feeling, almost like a breath of fresh air in the middle of a forest in summer. Apparently the energy he was feeling from Naruto was as potent as it seemed, as the pit, which seconds ago was just ground and dirt, had started growing fresh green grass, with flowers popping out here and there, and trees growing out of the walls of the pit. This energy was also unimaginably powerful, he had only felt energy that strong from the Seicho when he was angry, and even then his energy went above that, the energy he was feeling was probably as strong as the energy of the Seicho going all out would be, yet it was confronting, he didn't feel panicked at all feeling it. This development was not missed by the others, who by now were also looking down the pit in awe. What the hell is going on? This energy, it's amazing. Asked Hiyori who, like the others, was feeling more powerful because of this energy. I think Naruto has managed to either find his Zanpakuto or has found something even more amazing. Said Kisuke, his usual smirk present, this one though, was more sincere, as he was also happy Naruto would probably be fine. I'm guessing he'll be out of here in the next 5 to 10 minutes. He continued. Naruto's mindscape, Asura Otsutsuki, so you aren't my Zanpakuto, I wouldn't be able to hear your name if you were. Thought Naruto out loud, still in awe at what was happening. So, what are you? Your name feels familiar to me. He asked. Ah, I'm afraid that's a complicated question. Let me start from the beginning though. I am the son of Hagoromo Otsutsuki. The sage of 6 paths that might trigger your memory. That statement caused Naruto's eyes to widen. He now remembered. He had been told by Yoruichi the story of Hagoromo Otsutsuki, his mother and the Jubi. He had also been told of his sons, Indra, and the person who was in front of him, Asura. Wait, Asura, as in the progenitor for the Uzumaki and Senju clans. And Indra's Otsutsuki's brother? He asked, just to make sure. Yes, I am happy to see you already seem to know of me and my family, it will save me much explanation. He said, and seeing Naruto was looking at him with an expression that asked for him to say more, continued, but I see you have not been explained one last thing. You see, me and my brother Indra are indeed dead, and our souls have passed on to soul society, but our chakra has not faded. And as such, every several or so decades, our chakra enters a newborn. That newborn is then our reincarnation of sorts, even though it doesn't work exactly like that, seeing that our chakra is different from that of our reincarnations. We are separate from the people we are reincarnated into, although you are the first to have spoken to me, even Indra has never had that happen. I must say I am surprised to see that you have both chakra and spiritual energy and are trying to become a soul reaper, that is a first. He explained. He was about to continue before Naruto interrupted him. Wait, you said I was not your first reincarnation, so if I wasn't, who was? Also, who were Indra's reincarnations? He asked. All this was pretty overwhelming. Good question. In fact, Indra and I have only had 2 reincarnations, including the ones we are in right now. Indra's first reincarnation was Madara Che. That caused Naruto's eyes to widen as he figured out what Asura was about to say. I see you have figured it out. Care to tell me what you have come up with? He asked expectantly. Yes, I'm guessing that since you and your brother were basically polar opposites and rivals, that each of your reincarnations are the same, so by that, I'm guessing that Hashirama Senju was your first reincarnation. He explained, earning a satisfied look from Asura. Good, I have come on a smart reincarnation. Yes, you are indeed right. The last thing you need to know is that each of our reincarnations can access our own full power. Although that has never happened, Hashirama was only able to get my Mokuton, and to an extent, Sage Mode, even though he never reached its full potential. He was also never able to talk to me. But you have already done at your young age. From what is happening outside of your mindscape, you have already accessed a decent amount of my power. I can also sense you are now able to use all my chakra releases. That would be all the normal natures, along with yin release and yang release. I presume that yin-yang release will come after you master both yin and yang releases. At this point, Naruto was shell-shocked. He would have access to all the chakra natures, yin release, yang release and yin-yang release, and he was saying all that casually, as if it was normal. You will also be able to access a level of senjutsu above anything that could normally be taught by the summons. You might even be able to use the truth-seeking balls. Bemused. At this point, Naruto was just staring at him in shock, mouth wide open and eyes wide saucers. He didn't even know what the half of this stuff was, but it was probably stupidly powerful. Asura seemed to realize this as he laughed sheepishly and put a hand behind his head. Ah, I'm sorry, I must be confusing you, just don't think about all that stuff for now. You will learn about it in due time. The matter at hand now is awakening your Soul Reaper powers, since Kurama apparently doesn't want to show himself to you right now. He said. Wait, who's Kurama? He asked. You don't know. Kurama is the true name of the 9 tails. All the tailed beasts actually have a name, you know. He explained, earning another confused look from Naruto. I didn't know the tailed beasts had names. He thought out loud, it must be painful to never be referred to by your name, he thought, feeling a bit of sympathy for the Bijuus. Before he was interrupted by said Biju. Why did you tell this pathetic kid my name Asura? You should know I only give it to people I deem worthy. He heard who he assumed was Kuramase as a giant orange fox with 9 tails appeared behind the gates. He would have been scared by the demon's presence and power had Asura not been here. I know Kurama, but I've seen into young Naruto's heart and I can see he is worthy, do you not think so? Asked Asura. At this point Naruto was confused once again. Asura was speaking to the Kyuubi no Yoko, as if he was some old friend. I know you do not feel any malice from him. He will seek to understand you before he makes a judgment, and you know it. The Kyuubi released what was seemingly a huff, HMPF, whatever, I'll see if he's worthy, for now he's just some pathetic ninja, but I guess I'll give him a chance, since you are father's son, and the only one of the 2 I respect. Kurama said, before turning back around into his cage. Same as ever, Kurama. He said with a light chuckle, please forgive him, thousands of years of witnessing human foolishness and being used by them has made him cynical, I'm sure he will see that you are different. He said the last part sadly. Naruto, for his part, had started seeing the now named Kurama in a new light. He had started feeling a bit of sympathy towards him. Well, just another problem we will have to address in the coming years, no matter, let's go to your actual mindscape. At seeing Naruto's expression, he explained, "This isn't your actual mindscape, it is just Kurama's prison, your Zanpakuto will be in your actual mindscape." He said, before the sword disappeared and the two found themselves atop the Hokage mountain, only they weren't only looking over the village was there, but what would have usually been the outskirts of the village was hidden by clouds. Imagine the painting The Wanderer over the sea of fog, only with the Hokage mountain being where the man is standing and a part of the clouds replaced by Konoha. You see where we are right now is a place which you consider to be an area you find comfort in, a place you go to clear your thoughts, that would be the Hokage mountain, and the view from here represents the places you want to protect. The village is one area, and if you look closely you can see your house next to it. The clouds will disappear and be replaced with the areas you find yourself wanting to protect over the years, do you understand? He explained, to which Naruto nodded. He had always wanted to protect his loved ones after all, so it only made sense to protect the place where they lived. Now where is I wonder? He mused. Where is who? I couldn't hear the name of the person you are talking about. He asked. Oh, I was talking about your Zanpakuto, I guess you aren't ready to hear her name yet, no matter, it will come soon. I have gotten the chance to talk with her over the years, so I learned her name. He explained, to which Naruto nodded absent-mindedly. He was still trying to process the information he had received today, it was pretty overwhelming. Oh, Asura, I see you have managed to finally talk to Naruto, I'm guessing he's ready to receive his Shinigami powers. An angelic voice asked from behind the pair, the two looked around to look at the person who had appeared from the forest. The woman, who he guessed was his Zanpakuto, was a decently tall, standing at 5'9", had snow-white hair, which contrasted with her fire-red eyes, she had a fair skin tone, with a kind smile, she was wearing something similar to Asura, except without the magatamas around the collar, she radiated raw energy, very different to that of Asura, where his energy was peaceful and controlled. Hers was uncontrolled, meant for destruction and ridiculously powerful, he instantly knew he had gotten a powerful Zanpakuto just by looking at her. Yes, I have and I think he is ready for your test. Asura answered, a kind smile appearing on his face, which was returned by the Zanpakuto spirit, after which the wind starting picking up, extremely strong winds, almost like a tornado, the clouds replaced the sunny day, it started raining, with thunder resounding around them, the ground cracked, the forest had been lit on fire. Fire too strong for even the torrential rain to extinguish, all in all, it looked like Armageddon. What the hell? Is this my test? He asked screamed while trying to keep himself steady on the ground, his arm covering his face, oddly, his Zanpakuto spirit and Asura seemed unaffected by the storm going on. Yes, but before we start, I must ask you, what do you fight for? Where does your resolve come from? Where is your resolve? She asked, her tone deadly serious. I fight to protect those close to me. My resolve comes from those I consider precious, my resolve lies in them, my power comes from them, and I would do whatever I had to protect them. He answered, his voice full of determination, to which both Asura and his Zanpakuto spirit smiled. Would you go as far as to sacrifice your life for them? She asked. You already know that. You're a part of me, you already know what I fight for. He exclaimed, hearing this answer, her smile broadened. Of course, I just needed to make sure, now to gain your Shinigami powers you have to enter this forest and find me, once you do you just have to pull me out, simple enough, right? She explained. You bet it is, just wait, I'll be back in 2 minutes with your name and your sword. He exclaimed, before running into the destroyed forest. I know he will be able to find me, I just hope he will be able to face the what lies in the forest. She said to Asura, her question was returned by a reassuring smile. Don't worry, I've talked to him, and I'm sure he'll be able to defeat his darkness, his resolve is strong. He reassured her. I hope you're right. She whispered as she looked at where Naruto had disappeared. With Naruto, he ran into the forest, the wind whipping his hair around, the flames almost touching him, making him sweat, but he ignored that as he kept running deeper in the forest. He kept running for a couple minutes before he spotted something shining inside the fire that caught his attention. As he looked into it, he could feel power coming from where the rainbow-colored glint was. That must be my sword, couldn't it just be lying on the ground? He thought frustratingly as he steeled himself to run into the fire. Before he could do that though he was forced to dodge a overhead kick from behind him that he had sensed at the last second. Turning around he was shocked to see who the person was. The person who had attacked him was, essentially, a carbon copy of Naruto, except for the jet black hair and yellow eyes with a black sclera and the white Shinigami outfit. He also had a crazy grin and a disturbing look in his eyes. How'd you do, King? The creature exclaimed in a distorted voice before he lunged at Naruto, sending a punch with his right hand, which was blocked and countered with a knee to the stomach. The creature was obviously taken by surprise by that as he jumped back. Maybe you're not that pathetic, King. The creature said. Who are you? And what are you doing here? Naruto asked, a sneaking suspicion of the answer in the back of his head. Isn't it obvious? I'm your inner darkness, your hollow. I have no name, and I'm here to take that sword in your body. The creature screamed before lunging again towards Naruto. The blonde dodged his attempt before making hand signs and putting his hand up to his mouth. Duiton. Daitoppa wind. Release. Great breakthrough, he exclaimed, creating a strong wind current heading towards the hollow, who countered by doing the same thing. The two jutsus clashed, before, to Naruto's horror, the creature's attack won over and headed towards Naruto, who dodged shakily, still put off by what had happened. How can you use my jutsu? And how are they more powerful than mine? He asked, trying to keep the panic out of his voice. The hollow cackled before responding, it's because I'm better than you, stronger than you'll ever be. He screamed before going back to fighting Naruto. This time though, the fight went differently, where at the start Naruto felt like he had the upper hand. Now he was being severely pushed into the defensive. When he landed a hit, the hollow landed too. When their jutsus clashed, Naruto's jutsu would barely be enough to stop the creatures, and now he was at wit's end. He had no idea of what he could try. He had thought of using the powers Asura had talked about, but he wasn't able to use them without at least getting a grip on them, which he didn't have. As his mind went through ways of beating his hollow, his eyes went back to the glinting hilt of his sword, and his eyes widened. It was calling out to him. How could not have thought of that? I have to create an opening though, he thought while barely dodging another hit from the hollow. That's it. He thought as the hollow leapt back at him. This time though, he didn't avoid it and let himself be hit. As he was hit, he was sent towards where his sword was. He lied down, acting as if he was out. He heard his hollow cackle, thinking he had won the fight as he walked towards the sword. Ha! I told you could never stand up to me. He exclaimed as he put his hand up to grab the sword before he heard Naruto laughing below him. What? He asked. Oh nothing, just that you thought you could defeat me that easily. Look up, Dumbus. He said. The hollow looked up, only to see another Naruto, with a Rasengan in his hand, running towards him, ready to smash the Rasengan in his gut. His eyes widened, but it was too late. As the Naruto below him disappeared with a puff of smoke, he realized he had been played. Take that, hollow. He exclaimed, Rasengan. He said, driving the Rasengan in the hollow's gut, sending him flying into a tree that had been lit on fire. The hollow slid down the tree, trying to stand up, before he collapsed back onto the ground. He had learned the Rasengan after he had mastered Jonin level chakra control. As a sort of way of proving it, it had been pretty easy to learn. He had only taken a couple days before he had finished it. You won this fight, Naruto, but be ready. If I see, for even a moment, that you're slacking off, I'll come and take your body. Stay ready. He snarled before crawling back into the forest. At that moment, Asura and his Zanpakuto arrived, smiling. I knew you would be able to do it, Naruto. Now what are you waiting for? Take your sword. Asura exclaimed. Yes, Naruto, you have earned the right to wield me. I hope you will be able to hear my name soon. His Zanpakuto said. He smiled at both of them, putting his hand on his sword. He slowly pulled it out of the ground, his small groan turning into a determined yell. As he peeled the sword out the ground, as light started enveloping him, the world around them went back to how it was before. As the explosion of energy took over everything. Back in the hideout, it had been a couple minutes since Naruto had stopped loafing. The group was still looking at where Naruto was lying on the ground before they felt energy coming off him in masses. Tessai, I suggest you get out of there right now. Kisuke exclaimed, to which Tessai nodded, jumping out the pit. Kisuke turned towards the others. I think we should put some distance in between us and the pit. He suggested as the energy Naruto emitted doubled. The group jumped back right before a massive explosion of orange energy burst out the it. The explosion lasted 5 minutes, with the group having trouble not getting blown away by the explosion. The light slowly died off, revealing Naruto, who had somehow grown a couple inches. He was now standing at about 4'9", wearing the normal Shinigami Shihakusho, holding in his right hand the normal sealed Zanpakuto, a 60 centimeters long katana with an orange hilt. He was looking at them with a tired smirk on his face. You're lucky I can barely stand, Kisuke, otherwise you'd stop speaking mid-sentence as his tiredness took him over and he fell unconscious before he could fall, though Yoruichi was already by his side, holding him up. You're lucky Naruto needs help right now, Kisuke. Yoruichi told him, giving him a glare that made him want to hide in a corner and die. Oh come on, Naruto's fine, we all knew he'd make it, besides, he is fine now. Kisuke said cheerfully, trying to save face, which obviously didn't work. Yeah, whatever. Just be ready to start training Naruto once he wakes up. Yoruichi grumbled, taking Naruto back upstairs, followed by the rest of the group, leaving Kisuke alone. Why am I always the one who gets blamed for everything? Kisuke whined, crying and I'm tears, and now I have to clean all this up. 20 minutes later. What's up with me waking up from dramatic events with pounding headaches? Naruto grumbled in thought as he sat up from his position in his bed. Am I in my bed? He wondered before he saw the door open, revealing Yoruichi with a platter filled with food. Hey Yoruichi, how long I been out? He asked, his voice hoarse, surprising Yoruichi because he was up so soon. You're already up? That's good, you've been out for about 20 minutes. She explained, putting the platter down on his bedside table. How are you? She asked, taking a chair and sitting next to his bed. I feel great actually, I guess me getting my Soul Reaper powers, along with what else happened in there gave me an energy boost. He said with a smirk seeing Yoruichi's confused look. Wait, what else happened there? She asked, prompting Naruto to explain all that had happened, from him waking up in the Kyuubi's prison, to him meeting Asura and Kyuubi, him being Asura's reincarnate, him meeting his Zanpakuto, his inner hollow, and finally, him taking his sword. Needless to say Yoruichi was left mouth agape, earning a laugh from Naruto. Hey. What are you laughing about, if you were me you'd be as shocked as I am right now. She exclaimed, to which Naruto gave her an apologetic look, even though he was still snickering, making Yoruichi look away from him, pouting. Sorry, I had the same reaction when I discovered it as well, pretty surprising how this turned out, ain't it? He said. Yeah, so let me recap this, so now, you have the Kyuubi's power, your inner hollow's powers, Asura fucking Otsutsuki's powers, your Zanpakuto's powers and the Uzumaki seals that you can master. Are you fucking serious? That's insane. She exclaimed, waving her hands in the air to further prove her point. Wow, when you say it like that it really is crazy, I guess you were right about me having potential. He said with a chuckle. Yep, I guess I'm just that good. Now get out of bed, we need to go explain all this to the others and start your training. She said. Okay, he said getting out of his bed, let's go, I can't wait to see Hiyori's reaction to all this. He told her with a smirk as the two made their way to the training grounds. Once they got there they saw that everybody was already present, including Kisuke, behind his fan, had an expression of fear seeing the two people who had promised him a world of pain show up. Oh hey, Kisuke, how are you doing on this fine day? Asked Naruto with a sick sweet tone, making Kisuke sweat. Yeah, how are today Kisuke, having a great day I assume? I'd be ashamed if something were to ruin it. Said Yoruichi who was right beside Naruto. Why yeah, I'm having a wonderful day how be about you GG guys? Kisuke said, his voice shaky, the others meanwhile all had amused expressions on their faces. Oh you know, run of the mill, get tossed in a 50-meter deep pit with my hands tied behind my back, my chakra supplies cut off, and my chain of fate severed and eating itself for 72 hours. Oh, do you know what happens when your chain of fate's links are all severed? That's right. You turn into a hollow. But you'd know that since you fucking put me in there you shameless bastard. He finished screaming and punching Kisuke in the nose, after which Yoruichi joined in kicking him in the balls. Next time you pull some shit like that I'll stick your fan up where the sun don't shine. He finished, kicking him across the training ground and crashing into a wall, cracking it, he crawled out the hole in the wall, holding his crotch and limping back towards the group. Okay for once I guess I deserve that, but you know I won't be able to train you for a while now Naruto, I have been gravely injured after all. He said with his normal smirk back on, thinking he had turned the situation in his favor. Oh no Kisuke, you brought this onto yourself, you're still training me, injured or not, that'll be punishment for putting me in that pit. He said, his voice leaving no room for discussion as he turned towards the rest of the group, I'm guessing you all want to know what happened. Seeing them all nod he proceeded to give them the same explanation he had given Yoruichi, and, needless to say, they were all shocked. Well, it looks like we're gonna have to up your training kid, who knows when Aizen's coming back after all. And we'll also have to train you to overcome your inner hollow. Said Shinji, glad to see that Naruto was fine and now had an even bigger well of power than they thought he did. Over the years of them pranking Hiyori, he had come to see Naruto as somewhat of a younger brother, with the sentiment being reciprocated by Naruto. Yep, so what are we waiting for? Kisuke, get your lazy ass ready cuz tomorrow we're starting my training with my Zanpakuto. Naruto exclaimed, glad to see the crestfallen expression on Kisuke's face, who had thought maybe Naruto had let him off the hook. Fine, just know I won't be going easy on you. Kisuke grumbled, now, if you will, I discovered something that caught my interest while I was wandering about the village yesterday, a book called Icha I believe, if you need me I will be in my room. He said before leaving. Well, I think I'm gonna go to bed, I'm tired after discovering all this. Naruto said, waving a goodbye and heading towards his room. But Naruto, 4 a.m. Naruto sat bolt upright, panting and sweating, he had had a nightmare, the first one in a while, where Hollow had gone rampant and killed everybody in the house and was about to go on to the village before Naruto woke up. Deciding he shouldn't go back to sleep, he wasn't tired anyway, he got up and put some clothes on before heading out into the forest and to the Hokage mountain, an area he had always found comfort in. As he sat down on the fourth Hokage, his father's sculpture on the mountain, he couldn't help but feel a sense of dread invading him, he didn't know why, but he felt something bad was going to happen and he felt he might be able to stop it, making the feeling all the more eerie. I feel the same right now Naruto, something bad is going to happen and I think you know where you should be heading. A familiar voice said inside his head, startling him and making him almost fall down the mountain. After he regained his balance he asked. Asura? Is that you? He asked out loud. Yes it is, me and your Zanpakuto can speak through a mental link to you, by the way you don't have to speak out loud while doing this. The now identified Asura said, sounding amused. Oh, okay, you said you have the same feeling as I do, what about Halcyon, is she the same? He asked. Halcyon? Are you talking about your Zanpakuto? Asura questioned. Yeah, I don't know why, it just fits her, even though her test was about as far from one as possible. He explained, he thought he could a mental image of Asura nodding as he said that. I must say I like your choice of name for now, even though it is not my actual one. Halcyon said. Thanks, although I still feel something bad is going to happen and I think I know where I should be heading. He said as he jumped to the Hokage mountain, using his wind manipulation to slow his fall. Once he landed he started running towards where he was felt something was happening. He arrived there fast, having used what little he knew of Shunpo, since that would be how he would be doing fast travel now, and his wind manipulation. He landed in the middle of the Uchiha district, looking left and right he felt nothing, but he still felt it, that sense of dread, almost choking him. That was when he saw it, a figure, up on a pole, his face shadowed by the moon behind him. The only recognizable feature being the blood-red eyes with 3 tomos, identifiable anywhere. The figure looked at Naruto for a second, before vanishing and appearing in front of him. He almost had to pinch himself to make sure what he was seeing was right. The person who he was feeling this horrible sense of foreboding from was Uchiha Itachi. He hadn't really seen much of him over the years, but with the little time he had spent around the village, Itachi had been one of the only people that actually lived in the village that he had talked to, and he knew that there was no way in hell a person like Itachi could be radiating such dread in an area he considered his home, not of his free will, anyway. I'm sorry Naruto, but you've seen me, I can't leave you alive now. He said. He obviously thought he could hide his emotions from Naruto, but the blonde could see right through him. Those eyes said it all, they radiated sadness and regret at whatever Itachi had planned. What are you talking about Itachi? What's going on? He asked, confused out of his mind. Since you will die there is no reason for me not to tell you, I have come here to test myself, the only way I can do that is by killing my clan. He said, his voice still stoic but his eyes betraying him. What? What the hell are you talking about? Stop lying to me Itachi, I can see you don't want to do this, who's forcing you to act like this? He screamed out to him. I am doing this of my own free will, and I'm sorry Naruto, but I can't let you live after what you've seen. He said before vanishing again, appearing in front of Naruto, his tanto drawn. Naruto came to his senses, his shock forgotten, and dodged him, jumping back and drawing his Zanpakuto. And in this fic he will be able to use his Soul Reaper powers in his normal body. After all, ninja can use spiritual energy, yin chakra. The only reason they can't use it like Shinigami is because they haven't awakened those powers. Since Naruto has, he can use them without being in his spirit body. I don't know what's going on Itachi, but if you think I'm going to let go without a fight, then you're sorely mistaken. He exclaimed before vanishing and appearing in front of Itachi with his sword drawn over his head. Itachi, shocked at the display of speed shown by the 8-year-old, barely managed to bring his tanto up to block him. The two clashed swords, blood-red Sharingan looking into bright blue eyes. I must say I am impressed by your display of speed and strength with a sword Naruto, but you have forgotten one fundamental thing. He said, earning a confused look from Naruto, never look into a Sharingan. He finished as his body transformed into a flock of crows and the real Itachi appeared behind Naruto, a sword impaled through the blonde's heart. Naruto's eyes widened as he coughed up a fountain of blood. Sorry. He heard Itachi whisper sadly before he retracted his sword from Naruto, who fell to the ground, coughing and wheezing, trying to stay conscious and alive. I can't move. Is this really how I'm going to die? No, I can't die like this, I can't let Itachi do whatever he plans on doing, I can't die before we stop Aizen, I can't die now. He screamed to himself, his muscles still not responding, move damn it. He thought as he could faintly hear Itachi walking towards his compound. Suddenly, Halcyon appeared in front of him, her look deadly serious. Is that really what you want Naruto? The power to protect? Is that really where your resolve lies? Your reason for fighting? She asked. Yes, yes, yes and yes. Stop asking stupid question, you know the answer to all of these. He exclaimed through their mental link, his vocal cords not working. Halcyon smiled. Okay, then if that is really what you want, if that is really what your heart desires, I shall tell you my name and you will be able to hear it. She explained. Itachi turned around as he heard the wind picking up behind him, only to see the, what he thought, dead body of Naruto, surrounded by wind and fire, slowly getting stronger and stronger. His eyes widened as he felt a massive unknown energy from the blonde. What power is this? He should be dead. He thought. The winds died down, revealing Naruto, staring straight into the Uchiha's eyes, completely healed, the winds and flames still surrounding, now forming a tornado of fire around him, his sword stretched out in front of him, the tip pointing towards Itachi. The Sharingan wielder's eyes widened even more as he felt the blonde's power augment again. What the hell is going on? This power is greater than anything I have ever felt. He thought, suddenly fearing for his life as Naruto's power kept growing. Naruto, if your desire to protect is your true reason for fighting, if that is indeed where your resolve lies, then you will be able to hear my name. I will give you the power to protect what you consider precious. Call me forth in your battles, and I will aid you from now on. My name is. Bring heaven's winds and hell's fire together, Shogo Tenshi roughly translates to guardian angel. He screamed as all the energy that had been building up exploded around him, creating a pillar of bright light. At this point Itachi was happy they weren't in a populated area, even though people would probably be here soon. Once the wind died down, Itachi was shocked to see that Naruto's sword had changed from a normal katana with an orange hilt. The sword was now made of fire, with wind whipping around it, making the fire stronger. It also seemed like the fire could be elongated at will and swung around, almost like a fire whip with a barrier of wind around it, not only making the flames stronger, but hurting the person even more were they to be hit by an attack from it, and also protecting the flames from anything extinguishing it. The sword and Naruto were also radiating the unknown power Itachi had felt in masses. All in all, Itachi was confused, shocked and impressed at the same time. So, what do you say, huh? My Zanpakuto's pretty dope, he said with a grin, performing a test swing towards the sky that caused a fire and wind sword to grow 100 feet high. Naruto whistled, his sword really was no joke. Itachi for his part was even more shocked at seeing what the 8-year-old blonde had just done. Zanpakuto? A soul cutter? What does that mean? He wondered. Naruto, seeing the confused expression on his face, smirked. You seem pretty confused, Itachi, so what do you say? I'll tell you all about my secrets, and you'll tell me why you were planning on doing this madness. He suggested, his smirk now gone. Itachi pondered the question. He really didn't want to have to massacre his clan, when there were clearly many better ways the issue could be dealt with. He also wanted to know what the hell kind of power Naruto had just shown, so, having decided, he nodded an affirmative to Naruto, who resealed his sword, turning it back into a normal katana with an orange hilt. Great. But I think we should leave this place before we talk. I made quite the show there. He said sheepishly, scratching the back of his head. Yes, let's. I know an area where we will be able to talk in peace. Follow me. Itachi told him before jumping towards the forest. It only took them a few minutes before they arrived at what looked to be a training ground. This is an area I set up myself to train, so nobody should bother us. They'll probably be too busy checking over where you caused that ruckus anyways. Itachi said, staring pointedly at Naruto, who shrugged it off. Hey, at least I distracted them, and you can't tell me that wasn't badass. Naruto told Itachi, who ignored Naruto's remark and sat down on a rock. I guess I should tell you why I was doing that earlier first. Itachi suggested, to which Naruto just nodded, indicating the Uchiha to continue. I guess I should start off by saying I was ordered to massacre the Uchiha clan by none other than the third Hokage, Tsurutobi Hiruzen. Itachi decided to drop the bomb first, earning a disbelieving look from Naruto. You can't be serious, the old man would never order anything like that. He exclaimed. It was his only choice, you see, and so Itachi proceeded to explain everything, from the night of the Kyuubi's attack, to Danzo planting the seeds of doubt in the populace, that the Uchiha were responsible from the attack, to his father, Fugaku Uchiha, planning a coup, to how Hiruzen had tried everything to stop him, and finally, how he was ordered to massacre his clan and flee. Needless to say that after Itachi's explanation, Naruto was seething. That goddamn fucking bastard Danzo fucking head one-eyed loose cunt. Ooh, oh, I can't stand that bitch. I knew he was a piece of shit. I swear to God I'll kill him the next time I see his sorry ass. He screamed, venting his frustration. Itachi for his part pretty much agreed, even though he was wondering where the 8-year-old had gotten all that language from. I mean, it's so stupid. There's so many ways that are better than just murdering the entire clan. That's the dumbest thing I've ever fucking heard. Couldn't the Hokage have, told the villagers that the Uchiha weren't responsible for the attack and told them who actually was? Couldn't he have, fucking had Danzo executed 50 times over by now? Couldn't he have, given the Uchiha a higher position of power in the village, which would have shown them that the Hokage still trusts them? Oh my goodness, this is stupid. There are like 50 gajillion, and that's not even a number, other ways to deal with this, and they went for the let's just kill 'em all one. What the hell? I can't even comprehend this, it's so stupid. He finished his rant gasping for air and was surprised when the ever-stoic Uchiha gave a loose chuckle. Yes, you're right, even though I wonder where you got that colorful vocabulary from. I do agree with your opinion. I have even thought of my own way to deal with this that would probably work, seeing as I am close to Fugaku. But by that time I was already ordered to massacre the clan, and I thought it was too late. But you coming to stop at the last moment like that is probably a sign that I should try what I had thought of. He stood up, walking past Naruto. Thank you for this, Naruto. If it weren't for you stopping me tonight, I probably would have committed the biggest mistake of my life. He said gratefully. Ah, it's nothing. Also, don't you want to know where my baddest powers come from? I'm willing to tell you, even though I probably shouldn't. He suggested. No, I don't need to know, and even though I must admit I am a bit curious, I would feel wrong asking another favor of you after what you have done, although I may ask you in the future. He finished, turning around and sending a rare smile towards Naruto before vanishing. You're welcome. He's already gone, well whatever, he yawned, I'm tired anyways. He said as he took off in the direction of his house, tomorrow Gigi's getting an earful. The next morning, he had woken up the next morning and told everybody all that had happened, from him getting stabbed in the heart, to him learning the name of his sword, to Itachi explaining to him what he was doing and, needless to say, they were surprised. Wow Naruto, it seems trouble follows you everywhere heh? Said Shinji as he ruffled his hair, earning a glare from the blonde. Shinji's right you really do have a knack for getting into trouble, well at least you learned your shikai and saved a whole clan from being massacred over an injustice. Yoruichi said as if she were talking about the weather, earning a sweat drop from Naruto. Whatever. I'm gonna go give Gigi my thoughts on his dumbest decisions, be back in an hour or two. Get the cough medicine ready cause I'm gonna have a sore throat after this. He screamed as he took off towards the Hokage tower, ready to give the old man his 2 cents. He arrived at the Hokage tower by way of window breaking, earning him 4 Anbu swords at 4 different vital points of his body. He sighed and pushed them off, as if they didn't have an actual reason for what they were doing. Come on guys, we all know I'm not gonna do anything to the old man. Except for maybe blowing his eardrums out. He said, Oi, Gigi could you tell the Anbu to leave the room, I need to talk to you privately. Naruto asked, completely ignoring the seething Anbu, which caused the Sandaime to chuckle at the young man's boldness. Of course, Anbu, you're dismissed. The Anbu left the room, leaving the two alone, a couple seconds after making sure no one was around, and after asking Hiruzen to set up a soundproof barrier, he proceeded to punch the old man in the nose, almost breaking it, since Naruto didn't want to actually hurt him, and because if he was injured, then the blonde would probably be arrested. What the hell were you thinking Gigi? Ordering the execution of the Uchiha like that? You know that if I wasn't there Itachi would have actually gone through with it. And why is Danzo still even in a position of remote power anyways? He's the dumbest fuck in the 7 seas, and we don't even have 7 seas in the elemental lands. Naruto screamed at the top of his lungs, making him cough once he was done with his rant. Hiruzen had at first looked shocked, but had taken on a look of guilt after hearing the young man say what no one had dared to say to his face, the truth. I know Naruto, but the truth is, he sighed, I've gotten less strict over the years, and after the Kyuubi attack when I was forced back into being Hokage, I gave too much power to the elders, and I haven't been able to take it back. Danzo is right in a sense, I've gotten weak along the years. He said sadly. Although the explanation didn't work to satisfy Naruto, who only looked more pissed at the Hokage's poor reason. What the hell are you talking about Gigi? You're the Hokage for God's sake. The one who led Konoha through not 1, but 2 great shinobi wars, you're the Kami no shinobi for crying out loud, hell even now you're probably the most powerful man in the village outside of the Soul Reapers. And you mean to tell me you're gonna get stepped on by 2 powerless old fucks and 1 slightly powerful old fuck? I could probably defeat Danzo if push came to shove, so I'll be damned if you of all people become his bitch. So what you're gonna do is, call for everybody to join in the front of the Hokage tower, tell them that all the shit Danzo said was a white lie to make the Uchiha look guilty, expose Danzo for the piece of shit he is, force him to disband Root under threat of execution, and give the Uchiha their normal position back in the village. You got all that? Naruto exclaimed, annoyed at how long this farce had gone on. Yes, but, Sarutobi said before Naruto cut him off. No buts. I don't care what excuse you have, if you don't do this I will and I'll make it look worse for you. And if you're worrying about what the Uchiha will say Itachi told me he was planning on talking to his father about all this and that he had an idea so I wouldn't worry about that. Naruto told the Hokage with a tone of finality. Turns out Naruto's ideas are usually good ones, since everything had gone perfectly, the Hokage had asked everyone to join, as he had an important thing to say to them all. He had then proceeded to explain that the Uchiha were not responsible for anything that had to do with the Kyuubi attack, and that the actual person who had controlled the Kyuubi was a stranger who had obtained the Sharingan through unknown means. He had then, to further make them believe what Danzo had told them was a lie, proceeded to tell them all the things Danzo was responsible for over the years, and, needless to say that after that the villagers had taken a 180-degree turn for the better, some of them even asking for Danzo to be executed, which Hiruzen had almost agreed to before saying that they would send him to prison for the rest of life and would disband Root to make them into Konoha ninja. Turns out that Root wasn't as loyal to Danzo as they seemed seeing as they had almost immediately agreed. The Sandaime had then suggested that, to repay for what they had done to the Uchiha, they would give them a position of higher power in the village, which the villagers had agreed to, seeing as that, now that it was proven the Uchiha weren't a threat to their village, they were now a godsend because of their oh so precious Sharingan. That was probably the only downside to the whole plan, and Naruto had almost regretted it, seeing as that now Sasuke would be even more cocky. Itachi's plan in the end wasn't needed since Naruto's went flawlessly, though he had told his parents, Fugaku and Makoto, about what Naruto had done for their clan and how if it wasn't for him, they would probably all be dead by now and, needless to say, both of them were extremely grateful to him for not only having restored the Uchiha's honor but also saving their lives and preventing their son from going through what would have been a horrifying experience. Even though Naruto had just waved them off, saying it was nothing, they had still said he would have their eternal gratitude. So now Naruto and Yoruichi were sparring after the long day of revelations. Both were panting and sweating profusely. Yoruichi had to admit the kid was very good for his age. She was even starting to get tired during this little spar. "You really do get into all types of trouble, don't you, kid?" Yoruichi said with a smirk as she ducked under a kick and went for a leg sweep, which was avoided. Naruto then jumped back, wiping sweat from his brow, smirking. "Yeah, I guess, although I feel this isn't the last time things like this'll happen," he said. "Life would be boring otherwise, no?" She told him as she went for another punch, which made contact. "Yep." He agreed. Chapter 5. Meeting a Sannin. 2 years later, Naruto was now 10 years old. The last couple years since he had become a Shinigami had pretty much gone the same as his first 2 years in the academy, aside from him training in Shinigami powers that included Zanjutsu and Kido, which he appeared to be decent at. He still hadn't started trying to control Asura's powers. The only part of those powers he had mastered were the chakra natures. He now had A-rank wind jutsus, a couple B-rank fire and lightning jutsus, C-rank water and earth jutsus, and had started learning Mokuton, which proved to be extremely complicated. He hadn't even started learning the art of the sage. Asura had told him that he would first learn the normal sage mode, that of the summons, before he could even attempt to learn Asura's. All in all, even Naruto didn't know of his true powers. They weren't anything too crazy. He still didn't have the experience or age to be anything above Chunin, but living a normal academy life made it so that he didn't have any actual serious confrontations yet. His inner hollow and Kyuubi hadn't made an appearance since 2 years ago, and Asura told him not to worry about the Kyuubi since he believed the demon would have a change of mind on Naruto and would be willing to give him a chance. Of course, the only person aside from the exiles that knew of all this was Hiruzen. As a matter of fact, in the academy he was known as the Dead Last, which he had done on purpose. When asked by his friends who knew him well, Shikamaru and Hinata, why he downplayed himself so much, he said, "Deception is a ninja's greatest weapon, no. And besides, they don't need to know of my true capabilities." The only other person who knew about Naruto's actual secrets aside from the Hokage was Itachi. When Naruto was about 9, Itachi had asked him if he would still be willing to tell him his secret, to which Naruto had agreed. Ever since then the two had become a lot closer. They had even started to refer to themselves as brothers. Much to the irritation of Sasuke, they often sparred. It made a good sparring partner for Itachi and gave Naruto a person other than Yoruichi to spar in hand-to-hand against. He still hadn't started on learning seals since Jiraiya hadn't yet came back to the village, and it just happened that today was the day he was supposed to come back, much to the excitement of Naruto, who was ecstatic at meeting his godfather and learning the art of his mother's side of the family. That was the reason why, since about 5 AM, Naruto had been up, waiting at the gates for a certain Sannin to come up. It was now noon, and Naruto was getting frustrated. Either Jiraiya was late, or either Jiraiya wasn't even supposed to come until later, in which case Naruto had been waiting for 7 hours for nothing. "I swear to God, this Jiraiya better actually teach me something." Naruto grumbled from his spot atop a building looking over the gates. "You talking about me, Gaki? You seem a bit too young to be a fan of my books." He heard a voice say, a bit too close behind him, making him jump and fall over the ledge, screaming. Oh, he exclaimed. "What the hell? Why would you do that?" he asked, staring up at the gray-haired man. He then remembered who he had been waiting for. "Wait. You're Jiraiya?" he asked again. "Yep, who's asking?" Jiraiya asked. The only thing he knew about him coming back was that he was going to teach some kid sealing, which had intrigued him, but he hadn't questioned it. "I'm Naruto," the blonde exclaimed, and seeing the confused look on Jiraiya's face, continued, "Didn't the old man tell you why you were coming back? You're supposed to teach me sealing," he said, relieved at seeing Jiraiya's face light up with understanding. "Oh, you are? You don't look like anything special. I wonder why I was brought back just to teach some Gaki sealing," Jiraiya said, trying to tick the blonde off, which worked, as said Gaki was now standing up and pointing furiously at him, with a tick mark on his forehead. "You're the one talking, Jiji. You look old enough to have known the first. You look more like a closet pervert than a Sannin, Hiro Sennin," he screamed at him, earning an infuriated look from Jiraiya. "Hey. I'm not a closet pervert, I'm a proud and public pervert. And I'm not even that old. And don't call me Hiro Sennin. Call me the great sage, Jiraiya of the 1,000 women," he exclaimed, earning a sweat drop from Naruto. "You're not supposed to admit you're a pervert," he muttered. "Whatever, Gaki, I honestly don't see why I was brought back just to teach you sealing. You don't look like anything. Why sealing anyway? Nobody wants to learn that these days," Jiraiya said. I want you to teach me sealing cause I'm an Uzumaki, it's in my blood. And don't you owe the fourth anyways. The least you could do is teach his son, and if all that's not enough for you, I'll just beat your ass and force you to teach me, Iro-senin. Jiraiya had stopped listening mid-sentence when Naruto had said he was Minato's son, his eyes wide. What's the problem, Iro-senin? He asked. Why you're Minato's son? He asked. Yeah, didn't old man Tsurutobi tell you who you were going to be teaching? He replied. Jiraiya scratched the back of his head, laughing nervously. Heh, I don't really listen to anything he says these days. I only caught the part where he told me I was coming back to teach some kid. And he's the one supposed to teach me. Naruto grumbled. Hey. I'll have you know I'm a great teacher. Anyways, you wanna learn sealing cause you're in Uzumaki, right? Naruto nodded. Well, on top of learning something from your mom's side of the family, what about learning some things from your father's side? He asked, hoping to see the kid's eyes have stars in them, which they did. Really? What could you teach me? He asked excitedly, hoping to learn more stuff from his father's side. You can imagine his disappointment when Jiraiya held up his hand and made a Rasengan, looking smugly at Naruto. This was one of the two jutsus your father was famous for, this one's called the weight. What are you doing? He asked, seeing Naruto lift his hand up like Jiraiya had. His jaw dropped when he saw Naruto create a perfect Rasengan in his hand, looking bored while doing so. WWW what? You already know the Rasengan, you're 10. The hell? He practically screamed. I told you I wasn't just some gaki, I learned the Rasengan in like 2 weeks. Q jaw dropped lower. When I was 8, at this point Jiraiya had fallen on the floor. If that's all you have to teach me on my father's side, I'll stick with you teaching me seals. He said, disappointed. Jiraiya quickly picked himself off the ground, waving his hands to get the blonde's attention back. Wait. I have something else I'm sure you don't already have. Naruto raised one eyebrow, now interested in what Jiraiya had to say. Jiraiya quickly took the massive scroll he was holding on his back and rolled in on the ground, revealing a summoning contract, the Toad's one, which made Naruto's jaw drop. Looks like you'll be able to learn Sage Mode soon. He heard Asura say in his mind. That's the summoning contract for the Toads, and you're telling me I can sign it? He asked, bewildered. Jiraiya smirked at his expression. Yeah, your father had signed it as well, you just have to sign your name and blood there. He said, pointing at a free rectangle on the contract. Which Naruto hurried to sign his name in. I can finally learn Sage Mode. He covered his mouth with his own hand at realizing his slip and seeing Jiraiya's face. You didn't hear anything, okay? He said, causing Jiraiya to come back to his senses. What do you mean learn Sage Mode? How do you even know about that? I didn't even know about that till years after I signed the contract. What are you hiding, Gaki? Jiraiya asked suspiciously. The blonde sighed, I guess I can't hide it from you now. Well, I'm pretty sure I can trust you, so I'll tell you. He paused, as if wondering what he should say first. Do you know about the Sage of Six Paths? Jiraiya would have been surprised had he not come to expect the blonde to say crazy things like that. The Gaki shouldn't even know that name. Yeah, I know bits and pieces of his story, but I've heard it's just a myth. He said. Well, it's not, but his story isn't important. What is that he had 2 sons, Asura Otsutsuki and Indra Otsutsuki. One son, Asura, gained the sage's life force, so to say, he gained the sage's connection to nature. The second son, Indra, gained the sage's visual prowess. No, not the Rinnegan, he gained the Sharingan. At seeing Jiraiya's shocked look, he continued, yes, Indra is the starter of the Uchiha, and by connection, the Uchihas are descendant of the Sage of Six Paths, but Asura was also a progenitor of an extremely powerful clan. Can you guess? He asked playfully. Jiraiya adopted a pensive look. He couldn't believe this 10-year-old was giving him a history lesson. History that nobody knew and was extremely interesting, for that matter. A couple minutes later his face light up. The only clan I can think that could even rival the Uchiha clan is the Senju, and seeing that you said Asura gained the sage's life force and connection to nature, I'm guessing Asura is the progenitor of the Senju clan. He concluded. Good, he is. I assume you also know that the Uzumaki are distantly related to the Senju. Jiraiya nodded. Okay, you got all that, good, that was just a history lesson. To be honest, it wasn't essential to what I'm about to tell you, but I don't think you mind knowing this. So, this is the interesting part. When both Indra and Asura died, their chakra didn't disappear, and over the years, the chakra found itself inside of their descendants. The first reincarnation of Asura was Hashirama Senju, and the first reincarnation of Indra was Madara Uchiha. As a matter of fact, the only reason Hashirama had Mokuton was because he was his reincarnate, as you probably guessed. Being the reincarnate of those two grants you amazing power. He finished. Okay, I think I got all that, but why are you telling me this? And how do you know all this? What does this have to do with Sage Mode anyways? He asked. I was hoping you would guess it, but whatever. You do know that Hashirama is dead, right? Don't you think Asura would have found another reincarnate by now? He said, waving his hands towards himself. Jiraiya's face once again adopted a look of shock. Why you mean, why you're Asura's second RR reincarnation, he stuttered out. Yep, and I was able to actually talk to Asura, which is why I know all this, and now the reason why this has anything to do with Sage Mode is because, since Asura got the Sage's connection to nature, he achieved a level of Senjutsu much higher than anything the summons could, but he still said I had to learn the normal Sage Mode first. Does that answer all your questions? He asked. Yes, thanks, although now I just want to know what other things you got from Asura's powers. He said. Well, on top of being able to attain a higher level of Sage Mode, I can and have already mastered all 5 chakra natures. Jiraiya's jaw dropped. I'm learning Mokuton. Jiraiya's eyes went wide as saucers. Can use Yin and Yang release. Jiraiya started stuttering, and will able to use Yin Yang release once I mastered Yin and Yang. He finished, making Jiraiya trip and start stuttering even louder. Why you, W what? Why Yin why Yang R release, what the fuck even is that? He screamed out, tired at being confused. I don't even really know to be honest, I just know it's extremely powerful. Apparently the sage could use it to create life itself, although I don't think I'll be able to do that. He said, deciding not to tell him that the sage had created the Bijuous using yin-yang release, that would only lead to more questions. Wow kid, you really weren't kidding when you said I should take you seriously, what level do you think you are? He asked, more than impressed at hearing the kid's set of skills, and he hadn't even heard the extent of them. Well, all in all, I'm not sure, I've never had to go all out yet, but I don't think I'd be anything higher than Chunin. If I had more experience and had a bit more physical conditioning, I honestly think I could give you a run for your money. He said, which was true, if he used his Zanpakuto he could definitely make Jiraiya sweat, even though Jiraiya didn't know that, and chuckled at the boy. You're about 20 years early to be telling me that kid, but I wouldn't be surprised if you surpass me in a couple years though, you do show a stupid amount of potential. He said as they started walking towards the Hokage Tower. You haven't even seen the half of it, if the Hokage lets me, I'll let you in on another secret and then we'll have a spar and you can see what you think of my abilities. The blonde suggested, making Jiraiya chuckle and ruffle Naruto's hair, making him glare at the Sannin. You're certainly an interesting kid all right. Well, anyways we're there. Jiraiya said as he opened the door to the Hokage Tower and headed up the stairs, Naruto in tow. He opened the door to the Hokage's office. Hey Sarutobi. I'm back. I got to say you really gave me an interesting gig with this one. The old Hokage heard a familiar voice say from the door. He lifted his head and smiled, seeing his student Jiraiya entering with Naruto behind him. Ah, Jiraiya-kun, I see you've already been introduced to Naruto. Yes, he is indeed interesting. How much has he told you about himself? He asked, the question basically being has Naruto told you any of his secrets? Jiraiya seemed to understand that as his expression turned serious as he sat down, Naruto following suit. He told me about him being Asura's reincarnate, if that's what you're asking about. Jiraiya said, to which Hiruzen nodded. I see, is that all he told you? He asked, getting a nod, albeit a confused one, from the Sannin. It was at that point Naruto decided to butt in. Yeah Jiji, that was one of the reasons we came here, I wanted to ask you if I could tell him about the other secret. Naruto asked. It's your decision Naruto, I see no problem with it, I trust that Jiraiya-kun could keep that secret, it is your choice in the end though. The Hokage said. Okay, well, Jiraiya, make yourself comfortable, this is a long story. Naruto told the Sannin. The blonde then proceeded to explain to him the entire concept of Soul Society, the Shinigami, Hollows and the people he lived with, how Aizen would soon make his move, and how Naruto had decided he would help in defeating the man. He told Jiraiya of his Shinigami powers, needless to say. By the end Jiraiya was once again mouth agape. Okay kid, please, tell me this is the last secret like that you have, I don't think I can handle anymore, you're killing me here. Jiraiya said, earning a chuckle from Naruto. Yes, this is the last secret like that I have a couple minor things, but those will come in due time. Naruto reassured him, getting a relieved nod from Jiraiya. Thank God, okay, I'm hungry, come on kid, I'll treat you to lunch. Jiraiya said as he got up, see you Hiruzen. He said as he went out the room, followed by Naruto. Okay kid, where do you want to go for lunch? I don't know many places around here anymore. Jiraiya asked as the two walked down the streets of Konoha, Naruto receiving glares from most of the population, something Jiraiya didn't fail to notice, however, Naruto didn't seem to pay attention to them, so he decided he wouldn't either. You like ramen? Naruto asked. Jiraiya nodded affirmative, cool, I would have forced you to eat there anyway, but at least you'll enjoy it, follow me. He said as he made his way towards Ichiraku Ramen. So, what do you want to focus on first, your summons or learning seals? Jiraiya asked. Both, I use shadow clones, how do you think I got this advanced with how young I am? Naruto replied. Okay, they sat down at the booth, Naruto ordering his usual with Jiraiya following suit. You gonna start learning Sage Mode as soon as possible? Jiraiya questioned. Actually, me and the other Soul Reapers are going to the normal world of the living to prepare for Aizen's plans soon, and I can only learn Sage Mode here, so I'll have to focus on that. Naruto answered. What do you mean by soon? And how long will you be gone anyways? The hermit asked. To be honest, it could be in 2 years just like it could be today. Kisuke has been keeping tabs on the world of the living, so he'll tell us, and don't worry, even if the affairs there take years, in this world it will only be a couple months. 1 year here is equal to 10 years in the normal world. The blonde replied, finishing his third bowl. I see, well, no time to waste. We'll start training tomorrow at training ground 7 at 7 AM, you better not be late. Jiraiya said as he paid for the both. They both said a quick goodbye before stepping out the booth, where an Anbu was waiting for them. The Hokage has asked for the both of you to be in his office. The Anbu said before vanishing. Anbu, cold as always, whatever, let's head there. Jiraiya told Naruto as both headed towards the Hokage tower. They opened the door to the Hokage's office, where Hiruzen was already waiting for them. Good, you both have arrived. I've asked you to come here as I have a mission to assign the both of you. That mission will be to go find my successor. I am retiring from the post of Hokage, and I need you two to go find Tsunade Senju, who I have decided will be the Goddamn Hokage of Konoha. Hiruzen said, avoiding all small talk. Both Naruto and Jiraiya were surprised, Naruto because the old man was retiring, and Jiraiya because the old man was retiring, and because he had chosen Tsunade Senju, of all people, to be his successor. With all due respect, Hiruzen, Tsunade. Why her? You know as well as I do she wants nothing to do with the village, much less the post of Hokage. Jiraiya questioned, to which the Sandaime released a tired sigh. Yes, I know, but I've grown too old to be the Hokage, and the only two people that could take my spot are you or Tsunade, and you can't be because of your responsibilities outside of the village. Hiruzen replied. Yeah, I guess, oh well, guess I'll have to convince her. Mind me asking why Naruto's coming with me, he's still in the academy after all. Jiraiya asked. Yes, he may be, but you should know by now he is eons above anybody in there and has nothing to learn from being in there. And I believe that if anybody can bring Tsunade back, it will be him. Besides, it'll be good experience. The old Hokage said, sending a smile towards Naruto, who returned it. Don't worry Sarutobi Jiji, I'll get here back here kicking and screaming if I have to. The blonde exclaimed, come on Hiruzen, she ain't gonna find herself, I'll meet you at the gate in 2 hours. He said as he vanished via Shunpo. Jiraiya lay there stunned. Since when was this kid named leader of the team? The hermit muttered. Meanwhile, Hiruzen was having trouble not laughing at Naruto's nickname for the Sannin. He's right you know, Tsunade isn't going to find herself, she's been spotted around Tenzaku town these past couple weeks, I'd suggest going there to look for her. Sarutobi suggested, getting a nod from Jiraiya. Yeah, I just can't believe the Gaki had the nerve to order me around like that. 2 hours later, Konoha gates. Be ready kid. Jiraiya asked as he saw Naruto approaching the gates. He had gone back and gotten all the needed gear and told his friends where he was going, so he was ready. Yep, let's get going, where are we going to look for her first? Naruto asked as they stepped out the gates, Jiraiya having already filled out the papers to let them out. She's been spotted near Tenzaku town, so that's where we are headed. Jiraiya answered as they started jumping from tree to tree, unaware of the presence watching them. Unknown location. 10 figures stood on what looked to be the fingers of a giant, all appeared to be holograms, but you could clearly see the cloaks they wore, black with red clouds. Of all the figures 2 stood out, one with what looked to be a Venus flytrap for a head, and one with purple ringed eyes, with piercings all over his face. The Nine-Tails Jinchuriki has been sent out on a mission outside of the village of Konoha with the Sannin Jiraiya. Their mission is to find and bring back the Sannin Tsunade Senju for her to be given the position of Goddamn Hokage. The creature with the Venus flytrap for a head said, with what sounded like 2 different people uttering the sentence. I see, we should seize this opportunity, the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki might become powerful in the future, and with only Jiraiya to protect him, we should be able to apprehend him before he becomes a threat. The man with purple ringed eyes said. Fukuku, Jiraiya-kun you say. Why I think I would be a perfect choice for a mission like this, not many of us can handle a Sannin, and I already know everything about Jiraiya-kun's abilities. A creepy man, with a freakishly long tongue, long, straight, black hair and yellow eyes said. Yes, you will be going with Kisame to apprehend the Nine-Tails, however, you will wait until they are far away from the village before capturing him. The purple-eyed man said. Understood. They both said as the holograms disappeared. 5 days later, it had been about 5 days since Naruto and Jiraiya had left Konoha. They had been staying at inns, and Jiraiya had been showing him the basics of seals, and, needless to say, Naruto had been a natural at them, being in Uzumaki, and seemingly good at almost everything ninja-related, meant that he learned the basics of seals in about 2 hours. Out of the 10 levels that indicated one's proficiency in Fuinjutsu, Naruto was already level 2, although that level of growth certainly wouldn't continue, he would definitely become a Fuinjutsu master one of these days. Jiraiya had also made Naruto summon his first toads. The first toads he had summoned were Gamatatsu and Gamakichi, the sons of the chief toads Gamabunta. At seeing Naruto's depressed attitude when he had only managed to summon 2 small toads, Jiraiya had told him it was good for a first try and that he had summoned a tadpole at first. Naruto had then tried again, applying even more chakra to the summon, and had managed to call forth a chief toad Gamabunta, who had accepted Naruto as being a new summoner. So now they were making their way towards Tenzaku town. Jiraiya had said they would be there by midday if they went fast enough, so they were nothing more than a blur to the untrained eye as they bolted towards Tenzaku town until they were stopped when they felt 2 massive presences before them. Jiraiya and Naruto stopped, the former going in front of the latter, and 2 people, the source of the presences, appeared in front of them, both dressed in black cloaks with red clouds and wearing straw hats that hid their face, although Jiraiya immediately recognized one of the chakra signatures. "Orochimaru, what are you doing here? And who is your associate?" Jiraiya asked nervously. Fighting Orochimaru would have been hard enough, but the second chakra signature was even higher than the snake's. "Fukuku, we're here for the 9 tails here, little Naruto-kun. Would you mind just handing him over? It would make all this a lot easier," Orochimaru said, earning a scowl from Jiraiya. "Over my dead body, what do you want with Naruto anyways?" Jiraiya said as he pushed Naruto behind him. Now, you don't need to know that. Well, too bad, it looks like we're gonna have to fight, doesn't it?" Orochimaru said as the second figure took off his straw hat, revealing somebody who looked more like a shark than a person, the presence of which shocked Jiraiya even more. "Kisame Hoshigaki?" Jiraiya said, shocked. What is Orochimaru doing with someone like him? And what do they want with Naruto? Damn it, there's no way I can take on those 2 at the same time, he thought. "Come on. If it's me that you want, come and get me," Naruto said, much to Jiraiya's horror, who hadn't even noticed the boy slip by him. "What are you doing, Gaki? Both of these ninjas are S-rank missing nins. You can't take them on," Jiraiya yelled. "Don't worry about me, I'm stronger than I look, you take on Orochimaru while I take care of Fish Face there, I'll be fine, just deal with the snake quickly," Naruto said as he dashed towards Kisame with speeds even faster than the shark could follow and grabbed him by the head and in a display of shocking strength, dragged him off towards a different area to fight. Jiraiya sighed before focusing again on Orochimaru. "Fukuku, that kid is very confident to want to take on Kisame, I wonder if he can back up all that talk though," Orochimaru cackled as he flicked his tongue. With Naruto and Kisame. Naruto had dragged Kisame with him about 500 meters before dropping him off and getting in a fighting stance, waiting for Kisame to pick himself up. "What are you waiting for, Fish Face? Get up and fight me," Naruto taunted as a now pissed off Kisame got up and picked up his sword. "You know, kid, I would have gladly fought you without you dragging me all the way here, so now you've pissed me off," Kisame grumbled as he readied himself to fight. "Yeah, but that was more fun, however, I'm not so confident as to where I'd think I can fight you without going full strength. This is the second time I've used this outside of training, you should feel honored really," Naruto said sarcastically as he unsheathed his sword and pointed it at Kisame. "This is also the second time I've actually gotten into a serious fight outside of training," he thought. "Bring heaven's winds and hell's fire together, Shogo Tenshi," he yelled as his sword was engulfed in white-hot flames and then encased in a wind barrier. Kisame was shocked and impressed at the kid's display of strength. He was also confused at the fact he couldn't feel chakra from the sword. His thoughts were cut short as the blonde brought the sword over his head and brought it down. He was shocked to see that the flames of his sword grew like a whip and didn't have time to dodge before he was hit head-on by the attack, which sent him flying into a tree, burned and bloodied. He got up from the ground and smirked at the blonde who had managed to land such a powerful hit on him. "I must say I'm impressed, Gaki, however, you were unlucky in meeting an opponent such as me. I'm from Kiri, my speciality is water," he said as he made a couple hand signs. "Suiten. Bakusui Shoha. Water release. Exploding water shock wave," he said as a massive amount of water spewed out of his mouth, covering the forest and filling out the ground that Naruto had destroyed using his attack. The blonde didn't seem panicked though, as he brought his sword and swung it in a horizontal arc. "Bigoku no Tatsumaki." Roughly translates to Hell's Tornado, he yelled out as a massive tornado, at least 20 feet tall, of fire protected by wind, rose around him. The water collided with the tornado, but was simply thrown back by the wind, and the small amount of water that did make it past the barrier was instantly evaporated. As the wave and the tornado clashed, Kisame was shocked to see that not only did his jutsu not win, but that it had lost miserably, and that Naruto's tornado was still alive. The blonde then swung his sword towards Kisame, making the tornado fly towards him. The man barely had time to dodge, as the massive inferno crashed on the ground, creating a massive crater and slightly hurting Kisame. "How did that fire tornado win against my water jutsu? That should be impossible," Kisame said, shocked. Naruto meanwhile, was still calm, barely tired from the attack he had just used. "Now, why would I tell you that? That's for you to figure out, Fish Face," the blonde said as he weaved his hand signs. "Suiten. Miserapa water release." Raging waves, he said as he pumped more chakra into the technique to match the amount of water Kisum had released and launched it towards the shark man, who scoffed before easily dodging it. That was pathetic, kid. That water was way too slow to ever reach me. You can pump as much chakra as you want into that technique, it's still only a C rank. He laughed. I knew that attack wasn't going to do anything to you, and I pumped all that chakra into that technique because I didn't want you to be able to dodge this next attack. He said as he weaved his hand signs faster than the eye could see. Raiden. San Boruto lightning release. Thunderbolt, he said as Kisum eyes widened. The thunderbolt hit the water, effectively making Kisum cry out and fry. The shock lasted for 30 seconds before it ended, and Kisum fell down on his hands and knees, still spazzing and breathing heavily. Naruto walked up to him, sword resealed and in hand. You underestimated me. If you had just taken me seriously and used your full power, or even used your sword, you probably would have won, or at least had a better chance. Naruto said as he prepared for the final blow. Before he could do that, he was forced to dodge a sword from his left that was attached to a mouth. What the hell? Naruto thought confusedly before he saw the owner of the sword, Orochimaru. He had heard that the snake was disgusting, but that. You're fucking disgusting, Orochimaru. Naruto said as the man landed next to Kisum, injured, but not as much as his teammate. It appears we will have to retreat for now. You are stronger than I thought, Naruto-kun. I will definitely be keeping my eyes on you, Kukuku. Orochimaru said as he picked up a barely conscious Kisum and put him on his shoulders, obviously not happy to be doing so. And you think I'm just gonna let you leave, he yelled out as he struck Orochimaru, only for him and Kisum to turn into dirt, a sign that it was a clone. Damn it. He muttered to himself. He heard the sound of running and turned around to see Jiraiya running towards him. He looked worried until he saw that Naruto didn't have a scratch, to which his expression turned to confusion. How'd your fight go, kid? He asked. It was easy, he underestimated me so I defeated him fast. He answered. How'd yours go? Orochimaru obviously didn't underestimate you. He questioned, pointing at the many cuts and bruises he had. Yeah, we both went pretty much all out from the beginning, but he stopped the fight once he felt Kisum's chakra drop. Jiraiya answered. That's good, I guess. What do you think they were after chasing me? He asked, even though he already had a sneaking suspicion. Orochimaru called you Nine Tails at first, so I'm guessing that's what they are after. Jiraiya answered, sounding somewhat worried. Yeah, oh well, no use worrying about it now, let's just get going, we can still make it by nightfall. Naruto said. Yep, let's go. Chapter 6. Awakening of extremely powerful unknown powers ex machina. Number 1, oh, and finding a Sannin. Tenzaku Town, smells like alcohol, vomit and broken dreams. Naruto muttered, waving his hand in front of his nose as they made their way through Tenzaku Town. Is this really where the next Hokage is supposed to be? He asked, getting a nod from Jiraiya. I guess it fits her bio, a sad woman who lost her loved ones and can't face reality, so she loses herself with gambling and drinking. I can't think about a better way to make your deceased loved ones proud. He said harshly, earning a wince from Jiraiya. I suggest you don't say that to her face, if you do I don't even think being a Shinigami will save you. Jiraiya warned. If she refuses to come back to the village because she blames the village for her loved one's death, I'll tell it to her face. She needs to hear the truth. Naruto told Jiraiya. The hermit sighed, knowing the only way to bring her back would be to do that. Yeah, I know, that's why you're here, so I don't have to be the one to get castrated when you tell her that. Jiraiya said, getting a glare from Naruto. If I do end up telling her that, I'll also tell her it was your idea. Naruto told a now paling Jiraiya. Okay, you know what? How about we leave that option until we've gone through all the other ones? Jiraiya said, chuckling nervously as they entered the 5th bar where Tsunade could have been that night. Jiraiya scanned through the place, crying out in victory as he saw a head of blonde hair and a green Haori that he recognized as being Tsunade. Naruto saw where Jiraiya was looking and couldn't help but let out a sweat drop as he saw the kanji for gamble on her Haori. Seriously? She'll probably gamble away our funds when she gets in office. He thought sarcastically, worriedly. Give her a chance, Naruto, she has been through a lot. He heard Shogo Tenshi say through their mental link. Yeah, but out of all the ways to cope with the loss of a loved one, this is probably the worst I can think of. He replied through their link, sighing, I can already tell this isn't gonna be pretty. He said to Asura and his Zanpakuto. Tsunade. He heard Jiraiya yell out, getting the woman's attention. She turned around, surprised to see her old friend Jiraiya and some blonde kid who looked like Minato next to her. Jiraiya. What are you doing here? She asked as Jiraiya and the blonde kid made their way to her booth. Oh, come on, can't I just want to catch up with my busty teammate? Come on, let's have a drink or two. He said, sitting down to face her. Stop playing around, Jiraiya, whenever you're involved with anything it's never good. Anyways, who's the gaki? She asked, turning to face Naruto, who was looking at her with an analytical eye, surprising her. Oh, him? He's just a young academy student who decided to follow me on this trip, his name's Naruto Uzumaki. Jiraiya said, well, no matter, don't pay attention to him, how have you and Shizune been doing? He said, earning a snort from the piglet in Shizune's arm, oh and Taunton, sorry. He quickly apologized. I've been fine, now cut the bullshit, I know you're not just here to catch up with me, if you're here to bring me back to the village I ain't going, you know I want nothing to do with it. She said, glaring at Jiraiya. You're no fun Tsunade, fine, we've been sent here to bring you back to the village, Sarutobi's retired, and he chose you to be the next Hokage. Jiraiya told Tsunade. You already know that I won't come back, much less take up the position of Hokage, it is a position for fools, they have all died protecting their oh so precious village. Especially the fourth, the fool died protecting his village and being forced to seal the Kyuubi into his son while his wife lay dying. She said harshly. Naruto, having had enough of her whining, decided to make his presence known. You say the position of Hokage is for fools, yet your grandfather, granduncle and sensei are and were Hokage and your brother and lover strived for that position. Yes, they might have died because of that, but how is that a bad thing? I would rather die striving for my dream or accomplishing my dream, rather than living a dull life without one. Nawaki and Dan would be disappointed that you're not only refusing the position of Hokage, but that you're also insulting it. Who are you to insult their dreams? It was their choice to strive for that position, and now you're dishonoring them by spitting on their dream. You disgust me. He said as he stood up, oh and also, he turned around, leveling her with a glare, if you insult my father or even mention my mother again, I'll personally rip your tongue out. He finished as he flash-stepped away. Leaving a shocked Shizune and Jiraiya and a fuming Tsunade. That hit, I'm sure he didn't mean that, don't take that personally. Jiraiya said, chuckling nervously. If I ever see that kid again I'll break every bone in his body, slowly, stay away from me Jiraiya. Tsunade said before walking off, her tone making Jiraiya almost piss his pants. Tsunade, behind her facade of being mad at what the blonde had said, was thinking about it, is he right? Would Dan, Nawaki and the others really be disappointed in me? She kept telling herself that she was right, that wanting to be Hokage was for fools, but she couldn't help but feel disgusted with herself as she remembered all the times she had berated her lover and brother's dreams. She arrived at the inn she was staying at with Shizune, hoping the kid wouldn't be staying at the same one. Jiraiya was still sat at his booth, thinking about what had just happened. As much as he agreed with Naruto, he couldn't help but feel he was a bit rough with his busty friend. He ended those thoughts coming to the conclusion that she needed to hear that, and that she might have changed her mind by tomorrow. Now where did he go? He wondered as he threw some money on the table to pay the bill, before he walked out the booth, heading out to find his godson. Said godson had long ago come to a stop and was now standing atop a tree, looking up to the moon. Maybe I was a bit too rough. She did lose both her brother and lover he thought, questioning his methods for a second. No, she's had years to deal with it, still, I'll apologize to her tomorrow if she comes to her senses Naruto concluded. He was taken from his thoughts when he saw what appeared to be a crack appear in the sky, right in front of the moon. What's that? He wondered, his guard now up. The crack in the sky stopped growing and a small figure stepped out of it. It didn't look particularly imposing, but Naruto could feel an enormous amount of spiritual energy coming off it, a dark one, spiritual energy. Who is this? He's not dressed as a Shinigami, so what is he? He wondered. Who are you? What are you doing here? He asked cautiously. The figure turned to him, his glance cold, analytic, it spoke with a dead voice. There's no need for you to know what I'm doing here, trash, although I must say I'm surprised a human can see me and withstand my spiritual pressure. For that, I'll tell you my name, Ulquiorra Cipher. He said, but that is irrelevant, I was told to come here and leave no witnesses, so I must kill you, even though I find no need to. Ulquiorra suddenly disappeared, shocking Naruto, before reappearing in front of him, with what he thought was a Zero ready. He barely had time to dodge it before it got to him. The explosion was enormous. Naruto stared at it with widened eyes. He had never seen anything like that, and Ulquiorra didn't even seem slightly tired. Oh. You dodged my Zero. You might not be trash after all. He said before drawing his sword. What are you? You don't look like a hollow, but you can use Zero. Who sent you here? He asked. There is no point in answering these questions, seeing as you will die soon. Ulquiorra said before vanishing again. Naruto barely had time to bring up his Zanpakuto to block him. When he did however, he couldn't believe the strength behind the blow, and he was only using one hand. What is he? He thought in shock, gritting his teeth. Ulquiorra raised one eyebrow. You can block my strike. Very well, I must say I am impressed, but that will not save you. He said, adding more strength behind his sword. Naruto's eyes widened before being blown away into the forest. Such strength. He thought. He got back up, struggling to even stand. There's no way I can defeat him. I doubt I could even if I released my sword. I have to try and get Jiraiya's attention, so he can come help me he thought. I know I can't defeat you, but the least I can do is try. Bring heaven's winds and hell's fire together, Shogo Tenshi. He yelled out, shocking Ulquiorra, who wasn't expecting to see a Shinigami here, much less a 10-year-old one, and extremely powerful too. I have to get rid of him. If he is so powerful at such a young age, he could become a threat soon, he thought, involuntarily impressed by the boy's shikai. Naruto decided to use an attack that would attract attention, Jigoku no Tatsumaki. He yelled as his sword's flames elongated above him, rising to an impressive 50 feet high tornado before he swung it as Ulquiorra, who didn't bat an eyelash as he dispersed it with one swing of his sword, shocking Naruto even more. I must admit that was a powerful attack for such a young Shinigami, only the more reason to get rid of you. Aizen-sama doesn't need pest like you in the future. Ulquiorra said before, faster than Naruto could even see, Ulquiorra appeared in front of him, 0 only inches from his chest, however this time he didn't have time to dodge. Meanwhile Jiraiya and Tsunade had taken note of the massive tornado caused by Naruto, and were headed towards it. They were shocked when they saw the tornado suddenly disappear. Jiraiya, however, was also worried. He recognized that energy. Naruto was fighting, and he had released his sword. What was more, he wasn't winning. If his tornado being dispersed like that was any sign of how the fight was going. They appeared at the fight scene a couple feet from each other. They weren't focusing on each other, however. The scene they were looking at was far more important. They both looked on in shock and horror as Ulquiorra fired his zero straight in Naruto's chest, creating a 10 centimeter in diameter hole in it. Naruto. They both screamed in horror. Yes, even Tsunade. She had had time to reflect on Naruto's words and was grateful at the kid for making her come to her senses, and seeing that shocked her to the core. Naruto fell, dead, to the ground, his eyes dull. Ulquiorra turned his head towards the pair, who was watching the scene in horror, and sighed, more people he would have to kill. Naruto. Tsunade screamed, running towards the blonde. Jiraiya put himself in front of Ulquiorra, leaving Tsunade to try and heal Naruto, even though he doubted she would be able to. I'd ask you why you did that, but I don't think you'll answer, so I'll just kill you for doing that to my godson. Jiraiya said, before running towards the hollow. Meanwhile Tsunade had kneeled next to Naruto, her fear for blood long gone, and had started her healing jutsu. Even though she already knew he was dead, she didn't want to accept it, not after having finally accepted the deaths of Nawaki and Dan. She couldn't let the person who had brought her out of her misery die. Come on, Naruto. She sobbed, you can't die. Not now. She cried. Even though she didn't know what his dream was, she knew he had one, and she wanted to help him achieve it. She saw so much of Dan and Nawaki in the kid, even if she had only heard one sentence from him, and it wasn't exactly a compliment. You have a dream, don't you? Something to live for. You can't die before achieving it. I won't let you die like I did Nawaki and Dan. She screamed, her tears now blurring her vision. He was falling. He couldn't remember what had happened. All he knew was that he was fighting a human like Hollow, a stupidly powerful one, and that he had died. Yes. He had taken a zero to the chest and died. He couldn't open his eyes, but he could feel it. He was falling, surrounded by darkness, dead. He suddenly heard something, a voice, Tsunade. Come on, Naruto. That was his name, Naruto. You can't die, not now. You have a dream, don't you? Something to live for. He did. His friends, Shikamaru, Hinata, Itachi, his family, Kisuke, Shinji, Hiyori and the others, yoruichi. What was she to him? He didn't classify her as friends or family, yet she was the one he wanted to protect the most. What was it? Love. Maybe, but he knew he felt something for her. That was what he lived for, his friends and family. He lived to protect them. That's what he was training for. You can't die before achieving it. I won't let you die like I did Nawaki and Dan. She was right, he couldn't die. He couldn't die and leave the ones he loved, not yet. Move. He told himself, move. He screamed to himself, it wasn't working, he was dead. No, I'm not. I can hear Tsunade crying. I can't die now. He screamed to himself, but it was futile, he was going to die. Suddenly, the darkness disappeared. He could open his eyes. He opened them to see he was on the Hokage mountain. My mindscape, he realized. He looked around, expecting to see Asura and Shogo Tenshi. He was surprised when he saw only Asura, staring at him seriously. Why am I here, Asura? I thought I was dead. He questioned, confused. You did die, but there is a way to bring you back. Asura said, shocking Naruto. How? He asked. It would be by accessing another one of my powers, one I never told you about. He said, one again shocking Naruto. What is it? And why didn't you tell me? He asked, confused. Well, I wasn't sure how it would work out if you used it because of certain circumstances, but right now, it is worth the risk. He said. What circumstances? And what is that power? Naruto, I never told you this, but have you ever questioned why I was still able to talk to you after all this time? He asked, getting a confused no from Naruto. The reason why I am asking you this is because, even if you are my reincarnation, I shouldn't be able to stay with you for this long, my chakra would eventually run out. The only way I would have been able to stay in your body was if I was a spirit and not just chakra in your body. After a long time pondering on why and how I was a spirit in your body, I still wasn't able to figure out why, but after asking Shogo Tenshi, I found the answer. The thing is that, not only am I the spirit of Asura Otsutsuki, I am also the spirit of a Zanpakuto. He explained, shocking Naruto. But how can you be a Zanpakuto spirit? I thought one could only have one Zanpakuto. He asked. Well, the conclusion I came to is that, since you are my reincarnation, one part of your soul is technically me. Now usually that wouldn't matter, but with you being a Shinigami, that must have somehow altered me to become a sentient being inside your soul. To be honest, it is still very confusing as to how I am a Zanpakuto spirit and still have the powers I had when I was alive. Another thing that confused me is that you could hear my name the moment you met me. Asura said, the last sheepishly. Okay, I guess that kinda makes sense. But why didn't you ever tell me? He questioned, not sounding the least bit betrayed or annoyed. Asura must have had a good reason to hide this from him. I wasn't sure what would happen if you were able to use two Zanpakuto. I wasn't sure if your body could handle the strain of using two Zanpakuto at the same time, or even alternating them, but right now I think you have better odds of surviving that strain than you do surviving the strain of a 10 centimeters in diameter hole in your chest. Asura said. Well, what are you waiting for? Do you think to make me awaken my powers or something? Naruto yelled at him, to which Asura chuckled, before Naruto's inner world disappeared in a flash of white light. The talk between Asura and Naruto inside the blonde's inner world had only taken a couple minutes in the living world. Tsunade was still crying over Naruto, although at this point her tears had dried up and she was just looking at Naruto with an empty look. She was still using her healing jutsu, but she was barely putting any chakra in it. She had lost hope Naruto would wake up. Jiraiya had been fighting, if that was even how the beating he was receiving could be described. Ulquiorra had easily bested the Sannin, although the Espada was impressed a mere human could stand up to him for so long. Then it happened, they all felt an enormous amount of energy that Ulquiorra recognized as being spiritual energy coming off of Naruto. They all looked at him in shock, thinking he was dead. What is this power? It exceeds even mine. Ulquiorra thought in a rare display of shock. Tsunade, who was the only one who could see what was going on with Naruto, was rendered speechless as she saw the hole in his chest heal itself, the organs appearing first, then being covered by a layer of bones, muscles and skin. She couldn't even utter his name as she saw him open his eyes and get up. Everybody was silent as they watched in shock as Naruto got up, standing steadily on his feet. Sorry for making you worry, Tsunade, Jiraiya. He said as he looked apologetically towards the two. He then turned his gaze towards Ulquiorra, his gaze becoming cold. And you, how about a round two? He asked as he extended his hand and, to the further shock of everyone, made a sword appear from thin air. The sword was a normal katana, being about the same size as his other one, the only difference being that the hilt was a dark blue mixed with a bright yellow. Storm, Asura. He yelled out. The moment he said that, a lightning bolt came out of the sky. Even though there were no storm clouds, the lightning bolt fell directly on the tip of his sword. The explosion sent everybody, except Naruto, flying into a nearby tree. The light from the bolt subsided, only to reveal the sword. It hadn't changed much, but they could feel the power radiating off it. The electricity from the lightning could still be seen coursing through the sword. But that wasn't the end of it. Naruto then lifted his sword in the air. Ulquiorra tensed, expecting an attack, only to be surprised when Naruto said one word, absorb. The surroundings suddenly felt less humid, drier. Naruto, for his part, was grinning madly. You like my new Zanpakuto Ulquiorra? In case you couldn't guess, it's a lightning and water type. Great mix, right? I think so too. The reason why the air suddenly feels drier is because my sword just absorbed almost all the water in the air. The level of humidity should now only be about 2%. I didn't take any water from the plants. Asura is an environmentalist, he doesn't like that. That lightning bolt was also to charge my sword up, even though I can put my own electricity and water through it, it makes my job easier. He said, grinning at his new sword, but that's not all. He said as he picked up his other Zanpakuto. Ulquiorra's eyes suddenly widened. Could he release both swords at the same time? Bring heaven's winds and hell's fire together, Shogo Tenshi. He yelled out as he released his second Shikai. Ulquiorra, Tsunade and Jiraiya looked on in shock at the power they felt exuding from the young blonde. This power. It rivals the Primera. I must retreat, I was told not to cause a commotion here, damn it, Ulquiorra thought. Thinking about running, Ulquiorra. It's a bit too late for that. He said as he pointed both his swords at the hollow. Shizen Saigai roughly translates to natural disaster. He said as two giant dragons, 50 feet tall, one being made of water and with electricity coursing through it, the other being a fire dragon with a barrier of wind covering it. He swung a Asura towards Ulquiorra as the water dragon rushed towards him. The Espada didn't have time to dodge as the dragon crashed into him, frying him and throwing him in the air. He then swung Shogo Tenshi as the water dragon retreated. The fire dragon proceeded to fly to Ulquiorra's position in the sky. Before impacting him and throwing him into the ground, he crashed onto it, creating a 25 feet in diameter hole. "Think I'm done? TSK." Naruto said before he swung both Asura and Shogo Tenshi in a downwards arc, sending both of them crashing into Ulquiorra, sending the fried, burned, bruised and cut up man flying in the distance. He landed far away, his body for the most part broken, not being able to heal instantly outside of his resurrection. He barely stood up, legs shaking under his weight, and opened a garganta back towards Hueco Mundo, before falling through it, beginning the long and now painful walk back to Las Noches. "We will meet again, stranger," Ulquiorra said as he turned his head to look outside the garganta before it closed. Back with Naruto, Tsunade and Jiraiya, the blonde was grinning at his new Zanpakuto before he heard the two Sannin coming towards him. "Are you okay, Naruto?" Jiraiya asked worriedly. "Are you crazy? You know how much you scared me there, Gaki. I thought you were dead," she said sadly, whispering the last part. Naruto looked at her apologetically. "Sorry Tsunade, but I'm fine," he said as he lost consciousness, falling to the ground before Jiraiya caught him. "He's fine, just tired." "Heh, he really is something, no?" Jiraiya chuckled. "Yeah, you could say that, but somebody's gonna have to tell me what all that was. I'm seriously confused. The kid's obviously not just some academy student and he's Minato and Kushina's son," she said, to which Jiraiya nodded. "He has a lot of secrets, a lot. You're okay with being the next Hokage, right?" he asked cautiously. Tsunade nodded. "Good, since you're gonna be the next Hokage you should be told all his secrets. I'll tell you once we get back to the inn," he told her. 2 hours later, "It's been 2 years since I last fell unconscious after a dramatic event and once again, I have a pounding headache." Naruto thought annoyedly as he sat up in his futon. "I guess I'm back at the inn," he mused as he sat up. He looked around, looking for his 2 swords. He was relieved when he found them, sat up against the wall. "So guys, anything to report after I used both of you?" he asked through his mental link. "No, your body didn't suffer anything from using both swords at the same time. You can definitely use their abilities, however, it is too soon to say if you should be releasing both at the same. Earlier when you did it tired you out, but that was probably because you were already tired from all the events that had already happened. I think that using both of them released probably won't cause any damage, but it might tire you, nothing training can't fix," he heard Asura say. "Good, did anything change with you? Now that I awakened your Zanpakuto powers, are your old powers still there? Chakra and all that?" he asked. "No, it seems I still have my chakra, along with my Zanpakuto powers," he responded, to which Naruto sighed in relief. "Good," he responded, stepping out of his room and entering the living room of the hotel room, where Tsunade and Jiraiya were talking with another person, whose name he was pretty sure was Shizune. Listening, Jiraiya turned his head to look at the blonde. "Ah, you're up, good, I just finished telling Tsunade and Shizune about you, I hope you don't mind, but she has to know this, what with her being the new Hokage and all that, and Shizune being her assistant," Jiraiya said. Naruto just waved him off, sitting down on the couch. "Meh, it's fine, I knew we'd have to tell her. What time is it?" he asked. "It's about 10 p.m, we're leaving tomorrow if you're not too tired," Jiraiya answered. "Okay, I'm going to bed," he said, turning to look to Shizune, smiling at her. "Pleased to meet you," milliseconds he said pleasantly. "Shizune, pleased to meet you as well," she responded. Naruto nodded, stepping out the living room and back to his room. "Night," he told them. Next morning, "You ready to leave?" Jiraiya asked. "Yep, let's go guys," Naruto said as they leapt into the trees. They had been making good progress towards the village when Jiraiya went next to Naruto. "Do you know who that guy was? You said he had hollow powers, but didn't look like one. Do you have any idea what he was and who sent him?" he asked. Naruto's expression turned serious as he thought back to Ulquiorra. "He was a hollow alright, I don't know how he didn't have a mask and why he was so human. As to who sent him," he sighed, "I remember him saying Aizen had been the one giving orders. He's making his move and he can access this world, that's not good," he said seriously. Jiraiya nodded, he knew this was serious. He had been told of this Aizen person. He was strong, cunning, and most importantly, intelligent. He knew having a person like him as an enemy wasn't a good thing. "So how are you gonna this, since he might be targeting this world instead of the normal one?" he asked. "I don't know, but one thing's sure, I'm gonna have to speed up my training. Forget seals Jiraiya, when I get back I'm learning Sage Mode," he said, determination clear in his voice. "Okay, I hope you know what you're getting into, even I was never able to master it," he warned. "Yeah, but you're forgetting that you're talking to somebody who's the reincarnation of the greatest sage to ever exist, after the Sage of Six Paths, of course," Naruto said with a smirk, which Jiraiya returned. 2 days later, Konoha Gates. "How does it feel to be back, Bachan?" Naruto asked from Tsunade's side as they made their way up to the gates, ignoring her glare at the name. It's weird, I guess I wasn't expecting to ever come back here, it hasn't changed one bit though. She said nostalgically as they crossed the gates, ignoring the gatekeepers, Katetsu Hagain and Izumo Kamizuki, who were too busy gaping like fish at the new arrivals to stop them. Okay, let's head to the Hokage Tower to inform Jiji we're back. Naruto said as they headed to the Hokage Tower. Naruto opened the door to the Hokage's office, Jiji. We're back with Bachan. He moved to the side to reveal three other people, Jiraiya, Shizune and Tsunade. Sarutobi smiled at them, happy to see his two old students. Ah, Naruto, Jiraiya, I see you've managed to bring Tsunade and Shizune back. He said as the blonde and the Sannin sat down, Tsunade and Shizune standing up behind them, seeing as Tsunade is now Hokage, I see no need for you two to report your mission to me, so I will be taking my leave. Oh by the way Tsunade, there's about 2 weeks worth of paperwork waiting for you once you get settled in. Just ask somebody and I'm sure they'll tell you where to find it. The retired Hokage said quickly, leaving before Tsunade could castrate him. Tsunade growled angrily, scaring the other three, old pervert. I haven't even been here for 1 minute. Well, Jiraiya said nervously, choosing his words carefully, as to not aggravate Tsunade any further, I'll be taking my leave now. He said as he tried to run out the door, only to be stopped by Naruto holding his collar. How can that midget reach up to my collar? He thought confusedly, before he was pushed back on the chair and facing Tsunade, who had taken her seat as the Hokage. Sorry Ero-sennin, but you can't leave yet, we still have to discuss what happened with that hollow, and how we're gonna deal with the situation. I already sent a clone to fetch my group, they should be here right Abuo out. He looked at his wrist as if looking at a watch, putting his fingers up and counting them down, now. He said as the door opened to reveal the group of exiles, Urahara in front. Welcome back Naruto Kun, it's been a while, now I trust your mission went swimmingly. He said cheerfully. Naruto snorted, yeah, went great, fought a hollow that looked like a human, died, awakened a second Zanpakuto that I didn't know I had, run of the mill. He said sarcastically, earning a raised brow from Kisuke and confused looks from the others. Interesting, no doubt you'll have some things to tell us, I'm guessing that woman sitting at the Hokage's desk is Tsunade Senju. He asked, getting a nod from the woman, he then turned towards Jiraiya, I'm afraid I don't know who you are. He said, getting a crestfallen look from Jiraiya. You don't know me? How sad. Well, no matter. I am the legendary Jiraiya. Super pervert. The most powerful of the Sannin, Toad Sage and writer of the best-selling novel, Icha Icha. Surely you must have heard about it. He exclaimed, getting sweat drops for Naruto, Yoruichi, Tsunade and Shizune, but oddly enough, stars in the eyes of the exiles, along with looks of awe, they all approached Jiraiya with a reverent look, even Kensei, Hachi and Tessai, and bowed, all speaking at the same time. Jiraiya-sama. It is an honor to meet you. The writer of the greatest books of all time, please allow us to bask in your greatness if only for a couple seconds. They said, all who were listening, aside from Jiraiya, who was beaming with happiness, face faulted. Are you kidding me? You read Ero-sennin's books, they're smut. Naruto yelled. Iroi growled at him, then punched him into a wall, say that again Gaki. Jiraiya-sama's books are works of art you could never hope to understand. She screamed. Ma, no need to get violent, Naruto doesn't know what he is talking about, he will come to understand my works once he grows up, for now I ask that you forgive his foolishness. Jiraiya said seriously, way too seriously for what he was actually talking about, I shall apologize for my pupil's foolishness, would you all like a signed copy of my newest book? He asked, making all the exiles, besides Yoruichi, who was trying not to kick all their faces into the dirt, gasp and bow down again. Oh Jiraiya-sama, we appreciate your unending kindness, word of your forgiveness would have been enough, but you also offer to give us a signed piece of your art. How can we ever repay you? They all said again. Jiraiya grinned and pulled out enough books for all the exiles, signing them and handing them out, they all hugged and held the book as if it was a newborn child, sending kisses and affectionate words to it. Tsunade, having seen enough of their show, coughed to get their attention. If you're done with your circus, we're here to talk about what happened during Naruto and Jiraiya's mission. Naruto, would you mind telling them the events that happened during your mission? She asked. Naruto nodded and proceeded to tell them all that had happened during their trip. Needless to say, by the end, they were shocked. Yoruichi was the first to recover. So you mean to tell us that Asura, on top of being able to give you enormous amounts of ninja powers, is also a Zanpakuto? Naruto nodded, that you awakened it after you died by the hands of a hollow that had a Zanpakuto, but that looked human, and that was a soldier of Aizen. She asked, bewildered. Naruto nodded, looking like they were simply talking about the weather, so you now have 2 Zanpakuto that you can use simultaneously. He nodded again, are you kidding me? She screamed, surprising Naruto, who fell of the chair, do you ever not get into crazy, life-threatening, unimaginable situations? She yelled, to which Naruto did have the grace to look sheepish. Yep, I guess it's in my blood. he said, scratching the back of his head, but the point is, Aizen's making his move and he somehow has a way to enter this universe. He told them, his expression turning serious. We weren't expecting Aizen to want anything to do with this world, so we didn't think of what to do in case he did target this place. But, I do have an idea that might work out for now. Isuke said, getting everybody's attention. I'm thinking that me, Yoruichi and Tessai would go to the living world to guard it in case Aizen tries anything there, that the Vizards would stay here in case Aizen tries anything, and that Naruto would stay here for another couple months so that he can master Sage Mode and control his inner hollow. After he does that, he would come to the living world with us. How does that sound? He asked. It does sound like a good idea, but we'd have to find an excuse for Naruto to disappear for a long period of time. Tsunade argued. You could just say he's on a long-term mission, and besides, time goes by differently in the living world, he could be gone for 50 years, and it would only be 5 here. Yoruichi said, getting a nod from Tsunade. Well then it's settled. I'll just be stuck here until I'm done with Sage Mode and controlling my inner hollow, shouldn't take more than a couple months, right? He said sheepishly, getting a deadpan look from everybody. You guys always take everything so seriously. What if Naruto lived with yoruichi and bleach? Thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.